What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace episode 124 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. We're here on a Wednesday.
Yep.
We're trying to creep back to Friday.
Yeah.
In fact, I think maybe next week we'll probably do Friday.
Probably. Does anything come out next week?
Nothing comes out, but all the God of War stuff breaks like tomorrow,
right.
I think.
Okay, yeah. Embargo's tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, so you guys know, all the God of War reviews, I think will probably be going up around midnight tonight. I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe midnight or, yeah. I don't know what the embargo time is.
Yeah, we have actually not received God of War yet. So I know Vincent, one of the guys who works with us, had said maybe you guys should wait till Friday to talk about God of War. We've not got it yet.
Yeah, so we could talk about what other people talk about,
yeah.
But that's not...
That's
not
exactly
what you tune in for.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we're on Wednesday. We're going to probably do Friday next week to try to get back on our old schedule. We'll play it by ear depending on what's happened. Because, man, what has it been, like 8 days since we did our last show? Something like that. And nothing has happened.
Not a lot.
It has been really, really, really slow in the industry. Probably the worst March/April I can remember in
certainly in contrast to last March.
Oh yeah, it's like night and day. Last year, the early part of the year, we just had bangers just coming out like every week. So we're doing the best we can to make sure we have great shows for you guys.
We had one good week with Sea of Thieves, Far Cry, and
there was that
Ni no
one
Kuni
week
all in one go.
All in one week. Speaking of which, I am almost finished with Ni no Kuni 2. Love that freaking game. Cool. Love it all the way to the end. I have loved that game. Great story. Have you finished it yet?
No.
Story gets real good at the end. I'm just really impressed with that game from top to bottom. I know I've already recommended it on the show, but at that point I had played it like 15 hours. Now I'm like 40 hours deep, and it has just maintained the quality all the way through.
I'm glad you like it. It's not your usual thing, really.
I like RPGs if they're good. If there's a good story and the combat's good.
And get a lot of those.
The systems are all balanced. The other thing I would say, too, is that towards the end of the game, it does get more difficult. I breezed through the first 20 hours of it probably, but the last 10 or 15 hours, I've died a lot. And I can see it's trying to get me to go out and grind, and I'm just refusing to do it. But what the game does is it will give you new party members that are at the level of the enemies that they're throwing at you. So if you want, you can put those new characters into your party, and you can make it through the game. It's a little disappointing, though, because these characters that you've played with for 20 hours suddenly are like sitting on the sideline.
You get attached.
And if you wanted to, you could go and grind. Obviously, the overworld's there, and there's tons of enemies to fight if you want to. But I've just been using the new guys they give me, and I'm still at like 40 hours or whatever in that game. Big, big game. So can't recommend it highly enough. I'm really, really enjoying Ni no Kuni 2. Unfortunately, we do have some bad news to share today. We got kicked out of our studio. We're not getting evicted. I came in last week, and there were envelopes on every door in our office suite, and we've been on a month-to-month lease for literally like a year and a half or 2 years.
Because we knew that they were trying to farm the whole building out to one person.
Yeah, my landlord's been talking to me about it infrequently here and there, and he's been saying, like, look, you're good to go until we find one company that will rent out this whole wing, and apparently they have. So I came in last week, and there were envelopes on every suite in this wing, and everybody is getting tossed out. Apparently, some company is coming in here, and they're just going to rent out this whole place. So
I knew something was up when they fixed the wall in front of
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, so like, what was it, like 2 months ago? Like
it was more than that. It was before Christmas.
Yeah, a car jumped off the street and smashed through this wall that's in front of our building, and they didn't touch it for like 2 months.
Oh, longer than
that. It just sat there,
forever.
Just demolished.
It was like maybe 2 weeks ago I came, it's like, hey, they fixed the wall.
They fixed the wall.
It'd been almost 6 months.
Well, they've also been doing construction around here. Like a lot of the offices all come in and the door will be open, and I can see where they're in like painting and doing stuff, and that was kind of the first sign that something was going on. And the final sign is that we're out of here. So the envelope said, I have till May 4th to get out of the studio.
Oh, May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we only have a few more episodes of GameFace that's going to happen here in the studio. I'm in the process of trying to find another studio. The prices are outrageous. We moved in here 3 years ago, man. Over 3 years I've been in the studio now. And when we moved in here, we got a great deal, and then they jacked the rent up a little bit. And then once we were robbed, he never increased the rent again. Well, in that time, the rent in West Los Angeles has just skyrocketed.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking at studios smaller than what we have now for like triple the price of what I've been paying here. So doing what I can to try to find a new spot. We'll see. I don't know. When we have updates, we'll share it with you guys. But yeah, so one thing I am thinking about doing is...
I charge much less for using my living room.
We'll figure something out. The one thing I will say is that I think I'm going to do an IRL stream on the last day we're in the studio. I'll probably be in here selling furniture to people on Craigslist. I'm not even kidding. I'll be selling a lot of the furniture and stuff in here to people on Craigslist, and I'll be breaking all this stuff down and boxing it all up.
Somebody take that fridge.
Yeah, our mini fridge. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, man, honestly. I don't want to give it up. It's like a kegerator, and I hope one day when I owned a home, I could put the kegerator in my garage and put a keg in it. But I don't think my wife is going to want that thing hanging out in our foyer at our apartment, so I may have to sell that as well. But anyway, I'll probably do an IRL stream where I'll just set up some cameras in here, set up the TriCaster, and just let it roll, put a couple of mics around the room, and you guys can just hang out with me while I tear down the studio and bid it farewell. So, an end of an era. 3 years. I cannot believe it's been 3 years since I moved into the studio. The funny part was I moved into
That's longer than we were in the Bundy Olympic building for G4.
Absolutely. And I remember I moved in here on January 1st of 2015, and then the site was supposed to be done by then. It wasn't done. So I paid rent for this place for like 3 months, and we weren't even doing anything.
Well,
and then we launched
GameFace
around March, I guess it was.
It was early March.
Yeah, so I paid for 2 months.
We did rehearsals at the end of February.
Right, yeah, so 2 months I paid rent for this place. We weren't doing anything with it. Then in February we launched GameFace, start putting that stuff up on YouTube as promo for the site launch. And then finally, like in May, late May, June, the site launches. So it's been crazy. I can't believe it's been 3 years. To me, it's gone by in the blink of an eye, and all the crazy stuff that's happened. I mean, yeah, the robbery and everything. It's just been nuts. So anyway, I want to let you guys know about that. We will have a few more episodes of GameFace here in the studio, but after that, we have to find a new home. So I just want to give you a heads up. Any other housekeeping? Twitch Prime, obviously it's a new month. You guys can subscribe to us. I already saw a couple of you guys did in the chat. Thank you very much. MG and Noxa and a couple other people subscribed today. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. It does make a big difference. And certainly it will help if we try to find a new studio with the rent and things like that. So other than that, Pact or Factor, seems like you guys loved 100. Seems like you loved 101 even more because it's actually game-centric. A lot of people complained that episode 100 was too focused on alcohol and scotch.
Well, also, like, Marcus was kind of a cameo appearance in 100, whereas 101 is all just Patrick.
It's just a legit show, yeah. I mean, 100 was supposed to be a celebration. It wasn't supposed to be a serious game discussion show.
You gotta keep Patrick happy.
Yeah. Well, I think he's just happy intrinsically. Like, he's just one of those guys who's always happy. But yeah, I agree that 101 was probably a better show if all you care about is games. But 100 was just supposed to be a celebration. Wanted to make sure we got a lot of his friends to ask questions. And consequently, a lot of his friends in the industry are just like him. And they love scotch and things like that. So that's how it worked out. So,
oddly enough, people who work hard and run companies like to drink a lot.
Funny how that works.
It helps.
There's a lot of stress involved with running your own company. I know that for a fact. So with that, let's get on with the show. We're going to kick things off with craziness, in my opinion. Radical Heights. Wow, dude. I cannot believe.
Did you see the fake CEO Kazurai?
Yeah.
Did you see that tweet? Look that up.
Yeah.
Look up CEO Kazurai on Twitter and look at the just nasty, savage burn that he delivered to Cliff.
I thought that account was going away.
It was, but it comes back every once in a while when he comes up with a really good one.
That was a good one.
He basically said...
Savage is a good way to put it.
Basically said, this is not the first Battle Royale game Cliff Bleszinski has made. Lawbreakers started with 100 players and was down to one pretty quickly. And,
brutal.
Like, Cliff doesn't need that, but wow. Like,
look,
it's not wrong.
We're gonna discuss this. First of all, last week, Boss Key, Cliff Studio, says, we're done with Lawbreakers. We're not going to update it anymore. We're going to look into maybe making it free to play. But that's the only thing we're going to do with it.
But also, he mentioned it's like that's a big job.
Yeah.
Like, it's bigger than just flipping a switch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So everyone's like,
I think it's the right call.
It absolutely is. It probably should have been free to play from the beginning.
Well, yeah.
And then 5 days later, Boss Key announces basically I would say that Radical Heights is right in the middle between Fortnite and PUBG. As far as like what it looks like, how it plays,
It also feels like this was the game that like the people that didn't want to do the kind of the muted Unreal Tournament style character design were like, it's like, well, you could, if you want to draw something, go ahead. It's like and like Lawbreakers didn't work, and they're like, ding.
There's Rohan, by the way, one of my old coworkers at GT, who was on Pachter Factor 100.
Is he the announcer?
He is the announcer in this trailer. He is the announcer in the game.
I thought it's like weird. I played like 4 or 5 matches.
Oh, you did?
And I loaded the game like, I know that voice. I was like, hey, it's like that weird thing where it's like you recognize the voice not because you've heard it in another media product, but because you've heard it in reality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that Rohan?
It is. Like, so Radical Heights is a battle royale game. It's free. It's free to play. I
love that zoom.
Yeah.
On his face.
It's supposed to be inspired by the 80s, and it is. Like when you win the match, like 80s songs like play.
I see. Really? See, I think more early 90s because like some of the crazy like Zuba patterns, like in some of the like, it's definitely kind of a late 80s, early 90s kind of.
Well, like the one machine is like Top Gun.
Top Gun. There's a lot of Top Gun lines. That floor is 1991.
Or
that's Qzar in 1991.
Or it's a casino in Las Vegas in 2018.
Well, yes. Some things last forever, obviously.
I'm glad you got to play it, though. I thought I was going to be the only one who had played the game.
Well, it's free, so
yeah,
screw it.
Matt, what's your take on it so far?
It's a battle royale game. I mean, it's like I like the over the top kind of presentation. I like the Smash TV style sort of game show aesthetic they're going for, and how like they're trying to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing in the sense that like when you kill a guy, all the money explodes out. Like it's a fun kind of visual when that happens.
Well, it does have a theme, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
PUBG doesn't have a theme. Fortnite doesn't have a theme. This has a theme.
Mm-hmm. And there's like...
Does it work, though?
Not yet, I don't think. But it isn't, like, also like a bunch of stuff literally doesn't work.
I mean...
like zip lines work about half the time from what I can see. But there's like weird little things like I was in a match where suddenly a BMX race started.
Yeah.
And like everybody got over there and like everybody raced on BMX bikes and then the race ended and we killed each other.
Well, the very first game I ever played, as soon as I landed on the ground, there was a BMX bike sitting there. And I jumped on it and suddenly a waypoint appeared and I had like 2 minutes to race to the waypoint. Mm-hmm. I didn't see where it actually affected anything though. Like I didn't get anything for making it there.
I don't know if I agree with how they drop you in. Because there's no parachute, you just sort of
skydive.
You sort of land,
and then you do a roll when you get
you do a little tuck and roll.
Yeah, you're about to see it.
But the thing about this is like it means like people just sort of beeline where they want to go, and like there's no strategy really to like you can't because people in like PUBG want to pull the parachute as late as they can so no one sees them and stuff like that. There seems to be there's a little less. I don't know. That's funny. This is also exactly the first place I ended up in.
Oh, really?
When I played was this fast food restaurant and just taking.
Well, this actually isn't my footage. I had captured footage with Shadow Play when I was playing this game, and for whatever reason, it crashed Premiere, the footage, over and over and over. I could not get it to render out, so I ended up having to borrow some footage from a YouTuber, and I gave credit for the footage there off the top. But this is not me playing.
But it's. I don't know. I mean, it's got a long way to go.
Oh my gosh, Matt!
But it's like
long way to go.
I already like kind of what they're after more than I did in Lawbreakers, just in the sense that the building aspect of Fortnite doesn't do anything for me, but a brighter, more colorful, more humorous version of PUBG is kind of more up my alley.
And that's probably the good way to describe it. It's really it plays closer to PUBG than it does Fortnite, definitely. Without a doubt. I am shocked that they put this game out for public consumption. I was thinking back to my GameSpot days, my early Tech TV /G4 days, whenever you would get preview code for games where they wouldn't let you take video. They just let you write a preview based on it. And I cannot remember usually when they would not let you use video, it's because the game was so early it was literally broken. I can't even remember any preview code I got back then that was as rough as this game. I am shocked that they let the public play this game in the state that it's in. I mean, it is a mess. There are some of the places there aren't even textures at all.
Yep. Well, look at how like the cars keep appearing and reappearing here. I mean, it is very rough. It's an early access pre-alpha or whatever it looks like. There's also, I find there's a lot of, like, the game doesn't always agree that I'm aiming and shooting at a guy when I'm aiming and shooting. There's a lot.
Are you playing with a controller or a mouse and keyboard?
Mouse and keyboard.
So I've tried to play this with an Xbox One controller. And when you pick up a gun, if you pick up any automatic gun, it just fires. The guns just fire. If you pick up a handgun, it'll fire once. And then if you reload, after you reload, it'll fire it again. And obviously
that's bad in a game like
these
this.
games, it's a death sentence. So you can't, as of right now, you can't play this on a controller, even though there are controller prompts in the game that are PlayStation 4 controller prompts. So maybe we should
I think you just blew that announcement.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. But I am shocked that Cliff, of all people, after what happened with Lawbreakers, that he would put this game out there in the state that it's in.
I kind of get it in the sense it's like, okay, well, Lawbreakers, like, they thought they had something with Lawbreakers, and so now they don't really trust their judgment on that, so they're going to...
That's really bad.
They're going to kind of build...
your own judgment.
They're kind of going to... They want to... And clearly you can see that with, like, if you follow their Twitter and stuff, like, they want to build this game alongside the community and sort of make sure it's what people want.
I think the problem with you when you do that, though, is that, first impressions are big.
Yeah.
And also, the first impression of this game in its current state is not good.
And also, you can't please everybody. So
no, you're right. Absolutely. Or in the case of Lawbreakers, they didn't please hardly anyone. Right. They pleased me. I thought Lawbreakers was great.
But will this like pull people away from PUBG? It's kind of hard to see that happening.
No way. Not in this state. Like, it just... I think it was a huge mistake. I don't know what Cliff is doing, man. I really don't know what he's doing at Boss Key. Like, Lawbreakers at least had some unique concepts to it. This is just, to me, just a shameless cash-in, like, rip-off.
Mm-hmm. Well, they keep saying, like, we have a lot of unique things we want to try with this genre. They don't seem to be here yet.
I mean, the big changes for, at least the big things I noticed that are big differences, other than the aesthetics, obviously, are the way you get stuff in these machines.
Right. You can pay money, like your in-game money to...
Well, you have to. Like, yeah. I could not get bullets until I found money.
No?
No. I pick up guns, they're empty, and then I have to find money.
I usually find...
And then take the money to a machine and then buy the bullets.
I usually find appropriate ammo near the gun.
I've found ammo laying around before. Just my first game, I picked up guns. There's no ammo. There was none in the building. I had to run around. I ended up getting killed before I even found ammo for my gun.
Yeah, I've not bought anything from the vending machines in this yet.
Oh, wow.
But I found a fair amount of weaponry.
But they're like ATM machines. So you can get money and bank it. And then you can come back and access it if you want to later on if you need to buy something.
And I also find it's much more effective to just punch a guy to death.
Really?
So I've gotten at least 2 kills in every match I've played. But usually that is from sneaking up on somebody and just punching them until they die. Because they can't bring the gun around to shoot me in time, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the best
and one time the guy clearly should have shot me, but the gun barrel was like through my character model and didn't count as shooting me. So it was it's the Wild West out there. I'm also a little shocked that you can't drive any of the cars.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird, and like I mess around with the BMX bikes a lot in the pregame section.
Yeah, the pregame lobby is the best of any of the games.
But like the like you can do like a half pipe thing and stuff like that. But like the physics are just out in crazy town. Like and like I especially recommend like near the spinning wheel thing. There's like the ramp kind of near it. Like if you go up that on a BMX bike, it will automatically like super boost you to do the jump off of it, whether you're going fast enough to do it or not. And that just people launching back and forth. Also, at least in my game, I can't zipline in that lobby. The zipline prompt comes up, but it doesn't work.
I mean, it is, in my opinion, the best Battle Royale lobby yet. But that's not saying much.
Whatever that gets you.
Right. What does that get you? Not a lot. I don't know. I'm shocked that Cliff would put a game out in this state. And I hear you. You know, he's trying to say, we want to build it with the community. But there still has to be a baseline level of quality and polish before you send it out to the public.
Like the only other games I've played that I could compare to this level of not doneness I literally, under contract, can't talk about on this show.
Yeah.
Like, it's stuff I've played under NDA, basically. And you're right. It's a little shocking that
Cliff.
that they're throwing this out there. But
I mean, Cliff has also been generally a developer who innovates, who comes up with new concepts, or at the very least takes a concept that's out there and perfects it. And maybe that's what he's trying to do with this, but based upon my early experiences with it, I mean, the one thing I would say that I like, the gunplay is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you said, you shot through with clipping. You should have been shot. You didn't, but
that's a factor of how early it is, not a factor of design.
But the guns feel good. Yeah. They sound good. The hit detection seems pretty accurate so far. That is one part of it that I like. I feel like the shooting feels better in this than
like
the
I
other two games.
I see a lot of potential in this game, like the BMX stuff and kind of jumping over. Like I feel like once this gets all kind of fully baked and polished, like there's going to be some cool stuff you can do. It's going to be like a Sunset Overdrive version of Battle Royale, which I like. And I kind of I see also that like, yeah, this is a little early to put this game out, but at the same time, this space is about to get real crowded. And it's better, I think he's thinking, and I kind of agree with him, that it's probably better to get out there ahead of time and have people know you in this smaller field of competitors before this fall, when like this I think finally this little subgenre is going to blow up with everybody trying to get in on the action.
There's rumors all over the place about pretty much every major shooting franchise working on a Battle Royale for their game. And what happens when Call of Duty has a great Battle Royale mode? Does anyone care about the other Battle Royale modes?
I don't know. Well, there's plenty of people that don't like Call of Duty to the point that they would refuse to play that mode and play anything else instead. So you've got that advantage, I guess. But I don't know.
But there are millions and millions of people who do love Call of Duty.
But that's the big question is like, how wide is this pool? How much
deep maybe is the better question.
How much room is there for people to stand? And I think we're going to learn that by the end of this year, at least by the end of the fiscal year next March, we're going to know who made it and who didn't. And I think I don't think Boss Key is wrong in thinking that their best shot at being in the made it category is to get this out there early and get the people knowing it early. And it certainly tries to make an impression when you first start it up. It's like, you're not going to forget Radical Heights, although sometimes I forget the name.
I do forget the name too.
Yeah.
I don't... Like right before we started the segment, I'm like, wait a minute, what's the name of that game again?
Same.
And then it popped up on the screen.
Because I keep thinking Radical Dreamers, which is the Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross interquel that never made it to America.
Yeah.
Also with a very bright and colorful art aesthetic of a very different game. So I will probably end up referring to this as Cliff's Battle Royale game a lot. And in fact, I would almost say that's a pretty good title.
Yeah.
Cliffy's Battle Royale game is a pretty good title.
Yeah.
But I like the aesthetic they're going for. I like the game show kind of Smash TV style. If they really want to like double and triple down on that, like there could be something there. I like that when you run around and pick up the prizes, you get money for them, and you keep it at the end. You feel like even if you bomb out in a match, you feel like you progressed.
You earned something, bit.
There are good ideas in here. It's just real rough, but it's free, so like.
The interiors of the buildings are like N64 level.
I kept thinking of what I kept thinking about in the buildings was Hybrid Heaven.
Oh yeah,
you remember that game?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that game.
I kept thinking about Hybrid Heaven and Winback.
Yeah,
that's what I kept thinking. And like
old Koei N64 games.
But hey, I like those games. It wasn't a bad reminder. I mean, it's probably not a flattering one either. But like, it was like, hey, I remember those games 20 years ago.
Yeah, or more.
In this thing I'm playing in 2018 now
Yeah, I mean the game is so rough, man. Just in so many ways. It feels like this game has only been in development for like 3 months.
You might be right.
I mean, it's also obviously if they're using, no disrespect to Rohan, I love the guy, but when you're using like your employees as like the lead voiceover people in your game, that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence.
Yeah, but there's also like there's some homespun charm in that like might go some distance with kind of the Twitch, YouTube generation. I think.
I just don't think they'll even know that it's Rohan because they don't know who Rohan is.
Well, no, but like what I mean is like it doesn't necessarily have to be that you know who Rohan is, but like just the idea of kind of the amateur, like kind of intentionally amateur element of it might have some appeal I mean, look, PUBG isn't exactly the most polished AAA experience of all time either.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely, the people that are into the kind of the streaming Twitch stuff, there's definitely kind of a deep mistrust of the AAA space.
But I don't think that intentionally making your game janky is a smart strategy for success.
I don't think it's intentionally janky. I think this is just how it is right now. And, it'll get better.
Do you think it was a good idea to put it out in this state?
To be honest, I don't think it matters.
Really?
Not really.
You don't think that some people are going to play this and just be like, I'll never play that piece of shit again?
No, I think they'll play it and be like, well, I'll come back. If they don't like it, they'll be like, I'll come back to it when it's a little more baked.
I mean, look, I played both PUBG and Fortnite in early access, and both of those games were far more polished than this game.
I don't know if PUBG was when it started.
I was there. I mean, I got it the first week. I mean, there wasn't as much functionality because you couldn't jump over stuff or can't
exactly. And I'll be honest. Like, from what I've played a little bit, I don't own PUBG, but I played it on Xbox One a little bit at a friend's house and over Christmas, and it doesn't feel much better than this game.
I've only played the PC version. I haven't played
I mean, obviously, Xbox stuff aside, like, it's, the jank is part of the experience in a very real way. If that excuse works for PUBG, I mean, I don't get the impression PUBG is going to stop there.
But
PUBG is clearly trying to move forward with
PUBG was successful despite those faults because it was the only game in town. It was the only game where you could explore this genre and play this genre. And look at what happened. As soon as a first competent competitor showed up,
I don't agree with that.
Annihilated.
I don't agree with that at all. As soon as a free alternative showed up.
Fortnite is a far better game.
I agree, but it's free. The most important part of the equation is that Fortnite is free, and so is this.
Yeah.
And if you want to play something that's less Fortnite-y and more PUBG-y, and you don't want to pay for it, this is it.
Well, this looks like Fortnite, and it plays like PUBG.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that kind of split personality is going to make it a success.
No, but somebody was going to try it.
Yeah, I mean,
might as well be them.
We're going to see a ton of stuff like this coming up in the next 12 months, guaranteed. Yeah. Look, I would really love to see this game do well. Obviously, I have a friend who works there, and I want to see him succeed, and I want to see the studio that he works for succeed.
I think it has a lot of potential.
I like Cliff. I would like to see Cliff succeed. He got beat up pretty good with Lawbreakers, and undeservedly so, in my opinion. So I would like to see it succeed. I do not agree at all that it was a good idea to put this out the way it is. I think a lot of people give games, particularly free-to-play games, a one-and-done chance because there's so many of them, and people are not going to make a mental note and be like, "I'll come back and check this later."
See, I don't think that's necessary. I mean, maybe not in mass quantities, but look, every time No Man's Sky puts up one of their big updates, hundreds of thousands of people come back and play it on Steam.
But millions of people bought the game.
Yeah, but not on Steam. But the rule of thumb is you triple whatever you're seeing on Steam to match a console.
Right.
But not everyone who played that game is going to come back, but enough of them come back that the chatter starts up again. And I think if the most important thing they can do, and I guess this is partly Rohan's job, is when big changes and improvements are made to Radical Heights, you got to make sure everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that, we did a big new thing, go check it out.
It's tough for them because they did not build a huge audience with Lawbreakers on social media and stuff like that. And if they're going to have to use this game to build that audience, that might be a challenge.
That's true, but that's what any studio faces, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with striking out on your own. You don't have any kind of built-in.
I mean, other than having Cliff.
Right.
But you would think that would have just given him cachet just right out of the gate.
I think it did in the industry, but I think the core demographic to some degree doesn't like him very much.
Well, I think the other part, too, is that a lot of these kids don't even know who the hell he is.
True.
I mean, think about it. He's a fixture to us. He's been in the industry for a long time, and we knew him from his, Epic days and then Gears of War. And, I mean, a lot of kids are like, Gears of War, that game was kind of over with by the time I really got into gaming.
And Unreal Tournament was more something that was happening when they were 7.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I see a lot of people bagging on him for he seems like a jerk, or he seems like it's because he comes off as sure of himself and confident.
He does.
And
but if you know him in person, he's not
like that.
He's
at
not
all.
that kind of a guy at all.
No.
Yeah.
But he's one of the nicest guys in the industry, and he'll talk to you about anything. Anything. He'll talk to you about any kind of game stuff. He knows something about everything. He's a really interesting dude. But people, I see a lot of people willing to snap judge him as, on his media appearances as like, well, he just seems like an arrogant jerk.
Yeah.
Which does sometimes just seem to be how a confident person comes off if you don't know enough about
particularly
them.
Particularly if you're only dealing with them online.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get the wrong impression of someone online.
Yeah. Well, also like it's just a different. There's sort of a different public persona you need to have, I guess, these days versus like kind of your business, like because like when he says in those early Lawbreakers interviews, like, "Hey guys, let's make another $1 billion franchise."
Right.
Like if you're in a meeting with him, if you're going to work with him, that sounds like awesome confidence and like we're going to really kick some ass. But like I notice a lot of like gamers, a lot of audience people see that and think, "Oh, look at this jerk who thinks he can instantly make $1 billion money." But you can make $1 billion franchise by snapping his fingers. Like people don't read that the same way as you because you want that confidence, you want that optimism from someone you're working with or you're funding them. Yeah. But like you gotta, and like that used to be something you would want like from public persona facing from like a creative outlet as well, but it's just things have changed. Things, think the what people want from their public faces in this industry has changed over the last 10 years or 15 years.
No, you're absolutely right. Another interesting thing of note, it's going to be self-published. Nexon is not picking up the publishing rights for
I think that's wise. I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Nexon, after what happened with Lawbreakers, would be.
No, but I think keeping it in-house and on under their control and
well, if it blows up too, they make all the money. So.
Right. And also like this way, it's like, well, it's all in their court. Whatever they do is their own decision. If it doesn't work, they know that it was all on them. They did the best they could, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good move. Well, it made sense to go.
I don't think they had a choice. Honestly.
No, probably, but it made sense to go with like a Nexon for Lawbreakers.
Yeah. But Nexon, I don't think helped them because Nexon did not market or advertise the game.
It didn't, but
so I'm sure they look at it and they're like, wait a minute, we signed this deal with this publisher that was supposed to help us, and it did nothing. And so what's the point?
Right. I mean, but you can't predict that. When you're signing that deal, like you think it's going to work out.
Well, I'm sure Nexon said, look, we'll give you X dollars for marketing and advertising. And Cliff should know very well how far that's going to go. But maybe it's how Nexon spent the money. Maybe it's running like display ads on websites or whatever that people just don't even look at, or that stuff's filtered out by
I honestly don't know what any of that was. I mean, the reason I
never saw any ads for it.
The reason I knew about Lawbreakers is because I know Cliff.
Right. Yeah. And again, he doesn't have the cachet with the young kids that he does with people like us. So,
I get like we were saying about I don't think the early access element of this really matters that much, especially because it's clearly labeled and they're not charging you any money for it.
Well, there's other controversy about pay to win with the Founders Pack and all that.
Right,
they already had to backpedal on some of that.
They took the money
stuff.
Out of that Founders Pack, I think I saw, or something like that. Whatever. It's like, look. Even if you get a nice gun, you still got to aim it right.
Yep.
I don't feel like it certainly doesn't help me much.
Yeah.
I get the AK-47 all the time. It doesn't save my ass.
Yeah.
But like, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But my biggest question remains the name. Like, I think Radical Heights to me sounds almost like it sounds like some kind of like Blink 182 ripoff band. Or
which
like
Cliff may very well be a fan.
Maybe, or it sounds like some kind of like Melrose Place style soap opera. Like Radical Heights would be something
One thing I think Cliff is guilty of in general is looking at kind of what he thinks the hot stuff is at the time. And kind of reading the room wrong.
Yeah,
I feel like he's
join the fucking club. Really,
I think
we're all old now.
I think a lot of people do that, but I think maybe he looked at like, hey. Look at all these 80s things like Stranger Things and how big they are. And even the kids like Stranger Things. And I don't know if that's the right way to go about your business in 2018.
I felt like this was more 90s.
I mean, they're calling it 80s. I mean,
is it?
Yeah.
Like, I just got kind of an early like to me this like a lot of the aesthetic style here is directly out of a 1991 issue of Tiger Beat.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Bosky is saying. Is an 80s.
I can bring in copies of Video Game Magazine, which was what replaced Video Games and Computer Entertainment, the best video game magazine ever made. It got taken over, and Larry Flint Publishing changed it made it all radical. And for a while, it was doing all these crazy, like, neon color patterns in the background of the pages so you couldn't read the damn text. All that. I bet I can find you every single background pattern in this game in early issues of Video Game Magazine.
No, I hear what you're saying.
From 1993
but Boss
or
Key
so.
is calling this an 80s-themed Battle Royale game.
Well, yeah, because it's not cool to say something's 90s yet.
Yet. Give it another 5
But,
or
like,
10 years.
look, that kind of, like, the wild style sort of, like, bright-colored jams, sort of, like, surfer board shorts thing. Yeah, that's 80s. But the weird kind of crazy geometric shape pattern, that is early 90s. That is early 90s, like, Nickelodeon shit.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a problem. I mean, to be clear, I don't have a problem with that. I have nostalgia for that too. I was a teenager when that stuff was popular. I had pants that looked like that. I had pants that were all that kind of crazy color with geckos all over them.
Did you have Zubaz pants?
Yeah, who didn't have Zubas, man?
What are they called? Zubas or
Zubaz? I don't know. We called them
those
Zubas.
Crazy like
we called them Zubas.
tiger stripe.
Yeah, we didn't have an internet to look up stuff on how we pronounce things. We didn't. That's why everybody's got different pronunciations of all the Mario enemies.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Or Guile, who for a while in my arcade was called Guile.
So, Matt, are you going to go back and play this more?
Yeah, I probably will. I mean, part of that is because I don't play Battle Royale games much.
Right.
And kind of the concept of this appeals to me more than Fortnite's version of this, because Fortnite has all the building and extraneous stuff, and this is a little more straightforward, and I don't want to spend $30 for PUBG. Yeah. So, yeah, I probably will periodically come back to this.
I will wait a while before I go back to it.
I mean,
if I do
wrong.
at all.
Yeah.
Like 5-6 months from now, I'll go back and check it out probably. But
I'm not sorry I tried it.
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, Fortnite is my favorite Battle Royale game. I've played them all. I've played Fortnite and PUBG a ton. This one I've played 4 hours.
It's definitely the only one that I would play and think, this is a finished game.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. And like, while you say you don't like the building elements, I don't use them that much. Although when you see really good players play...
Yeah, the really good players use it like in just amazing
in ingenious ways. Like, literally. But what I like about Fortnite is you don't have to use it if you don't want to. And I don't. Like, I just play it without using the building. I mean, I do every once in a while. I'll build it to get up to the top of a building if I think there's a weapons cache up there or something like that. But I mean, the way some people play, it is like mind-boggling what they do. It's really impressive.
I've seen like the videos where like 3 people team up and build like a giant fort in the middle of the map, and they're just like, come get us.
In like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Like how quick they build this stuff blows. It's like they're fighting somebody, throwing up walls while they're fighting. Like, I am not at that level.
I need a window to shoot through.
It's crazy. Like, and I like that the game gives people the opportunity to do that. At least there's that depth there if you feel like
that's just not for me, because like, look, I can barely aim the shotgun. You know, like, I can't put that in my head too while I'm trying to play this thing.
Touche. But look, I do wish Cliff and Rohan and all the folks at Boss Key best of luck with the game. I don't agree with you. I think it was a bad decision to put this game up in this state in early access. I just think it's going to turn too many people off, or at the very least just create an overly negative opinion in general online and kind of poison the well.
Well, as we will see later in the episode, my opinion on that may be colored by the other thing I played this week.
Okay.
So,
all right, fair enough. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about probably the biggest story in society right now, other than political whatever, and that is privacy online. It has become a hot-button topic everywhere. Just today...
The U.S. Congress has been grilling a robot for 2 days about it.
It's insane, though. So...
It's amazing. I mean, man, like I watched a lot of the congressional hearings with Zuckerberg, and it's like Zuckerbot, engage smile protocol, kind of. It's fascinating.
But the people there,
his team is going to interface with them later. It's okay.
Yeah,
his team is going to get back to them.
I mean, I didn't watch much of that stuff, but what struck me the most is how digitally illiterate our Congress is.
Yeah, the Senate was worse. The House was better.
I mean, there are like 2 or 3 people in both that actually know anything.
Right.
Most of those people in there who are making the laws that govern us, and look, our life, our world is becoming a digital world. And to see that these are the people who are making the decisions for the world that we're living in right now is downright scary. They know nothing. Some of the questions that they asked him, like, my mind almost imploded.
My favorite was, who was it? Gorsuch who asked him like how you stay in business.
How do you stay in business
with a site that no one pays for? And he was like, "We run ads,
sir,
Senator,
sir." Wow.
It's like there's moments yesterday where you're like, oh, what? And the one question was like, one of the Senate people was like, so one of the senators was like, how many different types of data do you collect? And he's like, in the most polite way possible, Zuckerberg was like, I have no idea what you're asking me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing. That's not a way of phrasing anything. Like,
so in the last week and a half, since all this Facebook stuff happened, every time I open Facebook, the first thing I get is this like privacy statement saying, this is how you control your data, this is what we have of your data, this is what we do with your data, this is how you turn it off, and blah, blah, blah. Just every day. Every time I open it up, that's a splash that I get. Today, when I got up, there were 3 emails from Google in my inbox about Sifted, talking about their privacy issues for like Google Analytics and how that's going to change and what we will and won't be able to get from the data that we get from Google Analytics. And then this kind of is a story that's related to games. And essentially Valve is changing the privacy settings on Steam so that third-party apps and sites like Steam Spy can no longer scrape that data from the website.
Like by default, it's just all going to be private.
Yep. And so Steam Spy is going away.
Yep. Well, because like,
it
I guess
will cease to exist. It has no
right,
relevance.
There's nothing, you
now.
can't do anything with it. Because
Right.
I mean, I guess from what I understand, you will be able to set it to be public if you want, but you can't expect people to do that to the point that Steam Spy would remain useful.
Right.
So that's it. Although it is interesting to note that like this is also kind of a continuing trend of game developers and publishers not really wanting you to know how much things sell.
Yeah. Do you think, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask, is do you think that the developers are happy about this?
I would think so.
Because there was a feature,
at the very least, even if they don't care how much, if you know how much things sell, at least you no longer have people taking this sort of basically, who knows how accurate, who knows how representative the data from it is, and using that to extrapolate out like, oh, well, that's how much this game sold, and like that can have negative looks as a result. People like saying like, oh, well. Because everyone's got their kind of rule of thumb things, but oh, it had this much, so like on Steam, so it sold this much on PlayStation, so it'll and like there's no, everyone's just sort of guesstimating. It's no more reliable than like VG charts or whatever that site was.
There was a feature, I think Eurogamer wrote it today, where they talked to a lot of developers, and most of the developers were not happy about this.
Yeah.
That Steam Spy would not be able to get the data because...
Well, some of the smaller ones I saw were like, this is the only tool we have.
Right, because a lot of developers use that data, even though it's only roughly accurate. A lot of developers use that data to make decisions on their own games. They'll look at the landscape and say, this genre is selling, this genre is not selling, this setting is working right now, this setting isn't working right now, this type of play mechanic is selling, and because Valve won't give up the data.
Right. So like,
it's the only guidepost that developers have to use, particularly indie developers. That's the only data that they have to use to try to help shape their products.
And it's fascinating that Valve won't share that because they can see it.
Oh, of course. They'd have everything. And that brings up the question, I guess, which is the crux of this topic for today's show is, are we going too far? Do we need this type of stuff, or do we need to better educate consumers? Because here's what struck me the most about Zuckerberg's meeting with Congress in general was 90% of the questions that he was asked, he replied with, there's already that functionality, sir. There's already that functionality, Senator, over and over again.
It's just buried 4 menus deep and we don't tell anyone about it.
That's
the problem.
The communication was the problem, right?
Because look, like I looked, you have the thing that says like, you can put the thing through and says, see if your data was compromised by whatever it was, cybernetic analytica or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And was not. Yes, neither you nor any of your friends ever logged into that one, Your Life, whatever that was. None of it. So good work, all several hundred of my Facebook friends, not idiots. Well done.
It's a little bit like Darwinism, to be honest with you, because...
And I looked up like my Google, Google has a thing so you can see all the records we have on you. The Google record on my account is just saw an ad when you looked at his email. Saw every day. Saw an ad when you looked at your email. That's it. Like all my other stuff is locked down because I made sure to do that because I'm paranoid about this shit.
I mean, it's a little bit like Darwinism because generally the things you had to interact with on Facebook that would get that data from you was generally the lowest brow content. It was the turn your face into a frog. Which member of the Wizard of Oz are you? And look, I see all my older relatives doing that stuff. Like, oh my gosh, look at me. I have like rabbit ears. I'm like, why are you doing? And that is the stuff that was getting people. And also, generally, those are also the people who have no clue that there are even privacy settings on Facebook. And so I'm wondering if it's one of those cases where we're saying, let's nerf the world so that these people who refuse to educate themselves or can't educate themselves on a particular topic are protected at the expense of other people who are educated. Because you're seeing, to the detriment of developers right now, they liked having that data. They don't have it now because there were people out there, and I don't even think it has anything to do with Steam Spy. I don't think the thing I got from Google today has anything to do with Google. It's all about Facebook getting its balls busted on national TV in front of Congress. And all these other companies are like, I don't want to do that.
There's a lock it down mentality.
Right. And so they're just like, well, look, you know what? We're going to just completely flip the script here. We're going to get out in front of this. We're going to be proactive. And we're going to make sure that we don't end up in that seat that Zuckerberg is sitting in right now.
I don't really have a problem with kind of defaulting to, everything's private unless you decide to make it otherwise.
Yeah, me either.
I don't think that's an issue. And that's what Steam's doing. It's... I'm more in favor of that than like actual government regulation of things, except in like the most vague. If you want to make a law that says you have to like present your privacy settings in a more transparent, obvious way, because it's easier to find like your frickin' your how to turn the auto motion plus stuff off on your TV than it is to find some of the privacy settings in Facebook, or it was until recently.
It was buried, and then
because they don't want you to do that.
And I mean, I did it. Like literally, the first day I got on Facebook, I took the time to dig through all that crap, and it was very unintuitive. Everything was
nothing quite makes sense. No, it's like
the verbiage that they use doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's all. Like I looked. What was the thing where like people were like requesting their Facebook data thing, and like they were seeing like there were a record of every single text data, not the actual text, but there was a record of the time and when they texted everyone on their content. And I looked up mine, and it's nothing. Yeah. And the reason is because I had the update your contacts setting to the cloud at all times, whatever thing turned off. Not because I knew it would do that, but because I'm like, that doesn't sound like something I want to be happening. But it's on by default.
Right.
So
and I remember when I set up my Facebook, I would stare at some of those options for like 20 minutes. I'm like, what does this even mean? Because they would have this crazy convoluted, overly wordly description of it. And I'd sit there trying to parse the information to figure out what exactly it does. And I ended up like Googling it to see what it actually ended up doing. And so you're absolutely right. Like
my rule on that tended to be, if you can't tell me in one sentence what this option does, I turn it off.
I don't want it. Yeah, exactly. But I think there is a danger. And I think maybe like our parents are kind of the last generation that I don't want to call them like digital illiterate. But they get what they need.
It's their generation that was sitting up on those things asking the questions yesterday and the day before. So, look, the people in Congress are too old to be, and you see it in the questioning scenario because they don't have their young 20-something aides writing up their memos for them and making them not look illiterate. When they put a statement out, they got all the things in the order because they had some intern in their 20s write that on Facebook, probably. So like, but when you just get these people up there who are stuck there and who've been senators in the same district, or senator, same state, or a House representative of the same district for 30 years, because there's no limits on that. Like they have no incentive to stay up to date on these things. Most of them probably don't even use it. So what do they care?
But what I feel like is,
how many of those senators do you think called their grandchildren to ask questions about this before they did this?
Well, it's like when I worked at Viacom and I get these calls from executives in New York. They'd be like, how do you use Twitter?
Right.
What's the big deal with Twitter, Shane?
Well, it's like part of my issue, and like, believe me, and we all know I had plenty of issues with the election last year, but part of my problem was we were going from Obama, who was a younger, more vibrant character, to a whole fleet of baby boomers again.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that don't really get modern society.
Whatever, and my thoughts on the character of Trump or whoever, it's they're all too old. They're all too old to run the country in this new world. Like, they don't understand anything.
That was kind of what I was getting at, is why are we changing things so drastically to serve a small part of our population who...
That's not a small part, though.
Well...
The boomers are a giant percentage.
Because that's why
them
they're
and the
called
millennials.
Well, that's
and
why they're called the
between
baby
them.
boomers.
And we're caught between them.
Because that was during the war, and everyone's just having kids all willy-nilly. But do we nerf society, change society for a generation that is going to be the next one that isn't here any longer?
Yeah, sure. And then we can change it when they're gone.
Change it back.
Eventually, look, man. Like, to me, in terms of like kind of legislation, in terms of this sort of like tech level stuff, if you're a few years older than us, you shouldn't be doing it.
No, you're right.
To me, like,
I mean, we were the first generation really that is a part of that world. And I'm so glad that I am. Like,
I'm glad I got to see the world before it.
No, I'd agree.
And see it rise.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be like.
But we're the first generation to get it.
Right.
Thank God, because you would be lost.
And I would argue that we don't even get it quite that much compared to everyone.
Compared to like someone like Zuckerberg, even.
Right.
Yeah.
But can you? I mean, what a
time to be alive.
Well, also like watching it was like that guy made this thing basically to have an easy way to rank how hot a bunch of classmates were.
Yeah.
And now he's in front of the Congress answering questions about privacy concerns that might lead to new. It's like life comes at you fast, I guess.
Sure
like it's amazing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Valve could solve a lot of these problems if it just reached out to developers and said, "Hey, like, we'll give you the data."
Yeah,
privately.
It would be nice if they would do. It would be nice if Valve would stop acting like a dick for a while to someone.
Or Valve could just give it out. Period. It's not like their business. MPD doesn't give out numbers because that's its business.
Right.
That's how it generates revenue. That's how it survives, by selling those numbers.
Right.
And
that's not how Valve.
And I do have to admit, I am shocked that NPD data still doesn't get out there. I mean.
Well, that's the other thing is like NPD, that's the only source of that kind of data. They have kind of a monopoly on that. And if you get blackballed by the NPD, I'd imagine that really affects your analysis firm.
Well, back when we were doing Invisible Walls, Pac was sending us NPD data. He would send it to me every month. And that NPD stuff, and I wish I kept some of those files. I wish when I left Viacom, I had downloaded that to a zip drive, because that NPD data isn't just what sold last month. The monthly NPD report, if you print it out, is like that thick. It goes all the way back.
What's fascinating to like, if you look into the history of what the NPD is and what they used to do and how they used to, because the way they started, that starts in like the 50s or something, or maybe even earlier, and like they would collate all the register receipts from every retail location. Like literally, like that.
Pac's talked about that before.
That's what I mean. That's what NPD stands for. NPD stands for National Purchase Diaries.
Yeah, I know.
And like, that's crazy that someone used to have to do that. Now it's just like spreadsheet, total, done. Like,
but I wish I had that data.
It's amazing.
Still. I wish I could look back and see like what were the top 50 GameCube games or whatever.
Well, also the fascinating thing about the NPD and that is also like you're still kind of seeing an analog organization trying to survive in a new world where you shouldn't need that kind of organization to collate that information.
No, you're right. And maybe someday you won't.
I would think not. It's like the Nielsen ratings thing. It's like, do you need that anymore? No. Cable companies can read everything we're watching at any time, but they don't, because people freak out that they're going to see, you can't watch me watching Survivor again.
Again, it's a privacy issue.
Yeah, it's a privacy issue. So you've got that balance between privacy and information, and what information, I mean, to me, what I'm watching on TV is not important to me. Like, if someone wants to know what that is, I'll frickin' tell you. I watched a lot of Cupcake Wars the other day.
Well, generally, the only people who don't... Right, well, generally, I mean, with anything, the people who don't want that information out there are the people who are embarrassed if their information got out. Like, I don't really care if people see what I'm surfing the internet for, because I don't surf the internet for anything that people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe what Shane's looking at. Like, I just don't. So I don't care that much.
Very standard porn. In your Google history. I see how it is.
Exactly. But what I was getting at with Valve is that Valve is not trying to monetize that data. It just has it. So at the very least, why not create some kind of a program on Steam where once you release a game, you're in the club. Yeah, and you can get that data.
You can even charge them all like $5 a month for it
whatever.
or something.
It's worth it.
Imagine how much money that would be.
I know.
What a huge revenue stream
Think
for,
how much
for Valve
revenue they
all of
would
a sudden.
generate.
For nothing.
For nothing. Just giving the report that they have sitting on their
You
servers.
just give some intern access to whatever and be like, send it to all these people.
Here's 40
every day.
grand a year. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
we'll generate like 200 million a month from the work that you do. But look, I don't see Valve doing something like that. But I could see Valve like trying to figure out a middle ground here, because Valve, I still consider Valve to be pretty consumer friendly. Do you?
Consumer friendly. I don't know how friendly they are for like these developers. Like I think if a smaller developer, I've heard enough stories about how difficult it can be.
Yeah.
That maybe that's not a tremendously accurate description if you're coming at them from that angle.
Yeah.
And it depends. I mean, certainly Jim Sterling would disagree with you that they're consumer friendly, but part of that is like if you don't.
That's his shtick, though.
Right, but also like if you,
what's he gonna do if Steam is ever awesome?
Yeah, right. It's like what if they did get rid of all that? Like that's half the
Would
fucking
he
videos
retire?
he makes.
It's just like
It'd be like my work here is done.
And then we'll all give him $5 a month or whatever.
Now I'm just gonna yell about loot boxes full time. Finally,
which is kind of what he's doing already. But yeah, to me, there's a very simple solution for Valve. It's like the data's just sitting there. You're doing nothing with it. You don't need to make money off of it. Just give it to the developers. Once maybe a developer releases one game on Steam, they're in the club, give it to them to help them make smart decisions. Because ultimately, that works for Valve too. Because if you have better games on your service, you're going to sell more games and you're going to make more money. So Valve should be incentivized to help developers as much as possible.
And it does seem like Microsoft and Sony do provide some kind of information on that nature to developers, because you hear them talking about how we can see everything that's going on that you do on Xbox Live and all that kind of thing.
Valve's data is a little more valuable though, because it has like the early access program and the Greenlight program, or it did. But it has all these programs for early games. Microsoft has done a little bit with Xbox on that front, but certainly Steam is far more robust in that regard.
Also, like Steam, you're more likely to have like development teams that have like 4 people on them. You know, like much more grassroots level.
And also, when you're talking about teams like that, it's like as much data as you can get to make decisions. Like you're taking a huge risk, man.
Huge risk. You're working mostly blind,
and you're putting in $100K. That's like in a lot of cases like your life savings that you're putting into making that game. And I think Valve, because these companies are the ones putting the money in Valve's coffers, I feel like they should be incentivized just in that way to help them out as much as possible. So hopefully there's some kind of a middle ground here. It does suck that Steam Spy's going away.
I mean, you'd think a company that basically came from what Half-Life is.
Yeah.
Which was literally a mod.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so
would sympathize a little more.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it does suck to see Steam Spy go away. I did use that data from time to time whenever I was working on coverage and things like that, and now we just have nothing. So we literally now have no idea how any PC game is selling.
Yeah,
because
unless someone decides to tell us,
right?
Basically,
yeah.
But that's sort of how it is anyway. Really?
Well, Steam Spy was roughly accurate. Like you could tell if a game was going to be
I mean, like consoles.
Like
we don't know how much any console game sold really, unless someone
tells us.
Either breaks their NPD or like some publisher decides to announce like, "Hey, we sold this many because we're awesome."
Yeah.
Which means you only hear about the successful ones.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You never hear about the bombas.
Yeah. Like you never hear about. It's like, hey. Trying to think of an example of it's like, oh, well, Nier Automata did well.
It did.
It's like you do hear about that kind of thing, but it's like we didn't hear about how much.
Well, you were talking about Insomniac's Xbox game earlier.
All right, yeah.
We didn't know that game wasn't doing very well. Not Fused, the one after that.
Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, like we didn't know how that game was doing, but ultimately we kind of figured it out.
And even then, their evasive answer, like, "Oh, what about more Sunset Overdrive?" Like, we'd love to make more Sunset Overdrive. Somebody call us.
Yeah, if we had a publisher.
We ain't doing that with our own money. Are you crazy?
Right, because the publishers do have that data, and they can see that it did not sell very well. So.
Had to be better than Fuse, though, right?
Yeah. I think we're walking in this really murky area right now with privacy and data and everything. And
well, at the same time, you could argue that like the sales numbers for these things aren't our business.
Yeah.
Why do we need to know that?
Yeah. I wasn't
as consumers.
My argument wasn't that we should know; it was that the developers should know.
Right. So that's where I come down on like, in terms of like, oh, Steam Spy.
I would like to know.
Oh, sure, I'd love to know, but like. If I don't know, like the consequences is like whatever. Like who cares? I don't know sales numbers.
No, man, it makes GameFace better if we have that data. It does though. It would make the show great.
But what I'm saying is, like, as just like someone who plays games, does it affect my life one way or the other? No. But if like developing, like I would like if Steam is going to do that, I would like to see them do something to help developers kind of replace that information chain.
I've often questioned if it would be worth if you're a big, obviously Sifted could never do this, but if you were a big site, if it would be worth paying for MPD's numbers to use that data in your content, because it would give you a huge advantage over any other publication.
Are you allowed to say it? Are you allowed to like report
I don't know.
that? I don't think you are, because like
Pat can't.
We used to be like, because we used to get the NPD numbers from various things back at G4, and at some point the rules changed, and we couldn't do that anymore. Like you weren't allowed to do that. And if you went through someone you knew got the numbers anyway, and said like they're like, we will find who told you that. Basically, like it was like a.
Yeah, Pat was
they decided to lock it all down, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, he was sending them to me for a long time, and it definitely helped. I mean, we'd talk about stuff on Invisible Walls. We had data that no one else had.
We had, I mean, at G4,
but then that worked for like 5 months, and then one day he called me.
I think we had an actual account. I think the website,
really?
The website had.
It's really expensive.
A subscription.
It's like $30,000 a month.
Yeah, but we had a subscription to it. I want to say, because we used that stuff for all these different departments so much, and at a certain point the party just ended.
Yeah, Pat called me one day. He's like, "That's over." I don't know if they figured out that he was the one giving it to us. I mean, it probably wasn't very hard.
No, as I recall, it was
because they're like, "Where'd Shane get that data?" And then they're like, "Oh, and there's this show called Pack Attack on Game Trailers."
As I recall, it was like a thing where it was like, "We changed the rules, and that we'll figure out who's giving people numbers if you do that, and you won't be able to get our numbers anymore." Yeah. And like, you know, that's Pactor's bread and butter, so that you can't risk that.
I still wish I had kept I wish I had thought to grab that all those off my hard drive before I left.
Yeah, I would have kept all that. That's cool stuff.
Because literally, it's like 800 pages, and it goes all the way back to ever since I tracked game sales.
I keep all that weird business stuff just because it's always interesting. I still have all my.
I just forgot. Like I was just cleaning out my office, and I had a million other things to do, and it just slipped my mind.
I took everything out of my folder to when I left just to make sure, because some of that stuff was just things I wrote and scripts and stuff and logs of footage. I'm like, how did I do that? Oh, right, like that. Sometimes I forget.
I regret it. I would. You could that day would be very handy. Like, imagine if we had one of those reports just sitting here every episode, and every time we're like, hey, how did that sell? I could just pull it out and be like, it sold, whatever. But water under the bridge. So I feel like we're walking in these murky waters right now with privacy and data. And so I think you're going to make good decisions with that stuff. You're going to make some bad decisions. I think this decision...
a lot of the bad decisions have already been made.
I think this decision by Valve was a knee-jerk decision with very little sort of forward thinking on how it's going to impact things going on,
it
down the road.
It doesn't feel like on the level of what's happening with Facebook and Google. It feels like it's like, okay, so now no one can see what games I own. I would be much more interested in what you're doing to protect my credit card information.
No, you're right. Everyone's just covering their ass right now, Matt, because they're all petrified that there's going to be some crazy like class action lawsuit and they're going to go bankrupt. And so all these tech companies now are just being crazy, reactive, proactive, just trying to make sure that they cover their butts in case something like that were to happen. So
let's bring a class action lawsuit against Microsoft complaining about how everyone can see my achievements and I didn't really finish Mass Effect 3.
All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about one of the worst kept secrets from. There are no secrets anymore in this industry.
It's hard to keep
it just
a secret
really
now.
appears like there are just none. When was the last time a game was announced other than Radical Heights where you didn't see it coming? It just doesn't happen very often anymore.
Metroid Prime 4 was a surprise.
I mean, I kind of assumed that it was coming, but...
I did. I never assume a Metroid game is coming.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It still happens. No one saw Shenmue 3 coming.
That's true. But, I mean, that was such a shock that reaction videos went viral. Mm-hmm. I mean, when it does happen, people are like, "Oh my god, a surprise!"
Well, if it's something that's that, sometimes it's a surprise because no one cares.
Right? Yeah.
It's like no one called, Unraveled. Yeah. But what are you gonna do? It's like, EA's making a game about a yarn boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sequels to big proproperties, also
people do care about it.
Well, also because these games take an army to make in multiple cities across continents, and someone gonna talk.
Yeah. That's what happened with Spyro.
People can't keep secrets.
Yep. So Spyro remastered trilogy, coming to pretty much every platform.
Yep.
Which is a big deal because those games were PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, they were PlayStation identified for sure.
So if you have not been on the Sony train since the first PlayStation, you've probably never played these games. And now they're coming.
And if you were, you might have played the later games starring Elijah Wood.
Which were
not good.
Not good, yeah. So I'm really impressed with this, I have to say. Like, we talked about this before a few months ago when the first news leaked out. So we've known about, at least we thought we knew about this a long time ago. And we were running, like, emulated footage of the original play. And we were kind of sitting here, at least I did, and I was like, do we really need these? Because we can just get an emulator and play them for free at, like, 1080p or whatever. Oh, yeah. Now that I see... Yeah, so this is the footage I'm talking about. And I was watching this, I'm like, do we really need remasters? Now flip back to the remaster, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, of course we need. I mean, it's not a remaster, it's a remake. This is like...
Are they going to be completely remade?
Well, this is not just up-resing the existing assets. They remade this from the ground up like Crash Bandicoot, for sure.
Oh, wow.
There's no way this is the PS1 game scaled up.
No, you're right.
I mean, it says
they've
scaled
remodeled,
up
they've
because it's a
remodeled
pun,
everything.
But everything's a new model, everything's a new texture, this is a remake. As much as Crash Bandicoot was.
I think it looks great.
It looks really good. I think I said when we originally talked about it, like, I think these games would look amazing with the right modern art design, and sure enough, it does. It looks really good. A couple aesthetic things I think they didn't quite nail, but like I think there was a little more surrealism to the original games, and that was partly because they were so abstract that like you didn't have a choice, but like. I feel like they muted some of the colors and some of the environments a little bit more than I would have liked. But in general, I think it looks really nice.
Yeah,
I'm going to get it. I didn't get the Crash games, for sure.
Yeah,
but
I didn't either.
I'm going to get this.
Well, I think Spyro is a vastly superior franchise.
Well, yes, it's an Insomniac. Again, it's an Insomniac, a quality Insomniac game.
I mean, it's a great 3D platformer.
Yeah.
Period. Like, it doesn't even, like, that's what I think that's what I was getting at when we were talking about it before, is that this game is good no matter what its visuals look like.
Oh yeah, like if you play it, even the originals now, you can tell like this is by the people who would go on to make Ratchet and Clank.
Yep.
Like this is
Absolutely.
it makes a lot of sense.
Are you surprised that Insomniac is not creating this?
No, I think Insomniac's got other fish to fry.
Well, yeah, we'll actually get to that a little bit here in a minute, but I'm really impressed with it. I'm excited for it. I couldn't care less about the Crash stuff, but this game I'm going to play. I'm a big 3D platformer guy, and like I said, this game is great no matter how good the graphics look. Just the design, the controls. Maybe that's my one concern, is that the controls are up to scratch, because they were like sublime on the PlayStation. And I was not a huge fan of PlayStation controls in general, but this was one franchise where I played it. This Crash Team Racing was another one where I thought the controls were really good. But yeah, I'm far beyond my expectations of what I thought they were going to do with this. And all three games in one package.
No, I mean, it's the same thing that Crash got. It's pretty much what I expected.
Well, except these games are a lot longer than the Crash games. Like, the Crash games are kind of these linear levels, and these are kind of more open world. This game probably took me 25 hours to finish or something like that.
Well, I think there's probably a reason they didn't do these first.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. They were probably like, let's test the waters first with Crash. And then once they saw that first week of sales rolling in, they're like,
if they'll buy this, they'll buy anything.
Green light! They'll buy anything. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. What's the release date for this?
September. September is getting more and more crowded.
I wish April and March were more crowded.
September's getting real. What was it? Somebody announced? Oh, Spider-Man is also September.
Yep.
Which is going to be, I think, have some negative consequences to Dragon Quest and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which are also right next to it. Like a lot of times, I think you get that sort of thing where, especially these days, where it's like somebody's going to buy their one game for that month or whatever, and I think a lot of people are going to pick Spider-Man.
I can see some crossover of those franchises too.
I mean, I would
definitely. People have to make a choice.
Yeah, definitely. I would. I mean, if I had to pick, I mean, I'd probably pick up Spider-Man and this if I could only get like two.
Yeah.
Just because it's different enough, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of swinging around collecting stuff in Spider-Man. We'll see.
Yep. We'll talk about that in just a minute, actually.
But no, I will get this at some point. Maybe when it comes out, maybe closer to Christmas. We'll see.
I never even played the third one. I never finished.
I don't think I played the third one.
I never finished the second one. I finished the first one, probably half of the second one, and never even played the third. So there'll be a game and a half here that I've never even seen at all.
I don't even remember if I played the second one, but I did like the first one.
Yeah. All my friends were playing it.
Well, I didn't know anyone playing it except I was my friends was living in a house with like three other families or three people, and one of them had a kid, and a kid was playing this obsessively. And one time I was over at her house, and a kid was playing and wanted us to play with her. And we were taking turns with the controller, and I played it. And I was like, and I hadn't played it because it looked like a kid's dragon game, right?
Yeah.
Insomniac didn't have
didn't have a name.
Nothing. The only game they made was Disruptor at that point, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really good. This is like I was like, wow, this feels really good. And I went and got it after I played it at that kid's.
Well, the funny thing
PlayStation. I was like, I did not expect to play Spyro the Dragon, but I did. But I don't think I ever got 2 or 3. I think 1 was sort of enough for me.
Well, the funny thing was that Crash was billed as the big competitor to Super Mario 64, but no, this was really the competitor to Super Mario 64. I mean, Crash...
Well, it's certainly more in the same vein.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a legit 3D platformer with free roaming movement, whereas Crash was almost always on a 2D plane, or you're running at the screen or running away from the screen at all times. So, so I think it's a pretty auspicious debut. I'm sure we've seen a lot more of it at E3.
Mm-hmm. What next? What's the next PlayStation trilogy to get the remake remaster treatment?
What other trilogies are left?
Well, they could do Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
They could do... now I'm in crazy
the world's first Battle Royale game.
Yeah, they could do Colony Wars.
Yeah.
I'm just listing things that'll never get made now.
Speaking of which, if David Jaffe is watching right now, maybe, he was on our last stream and followed us after the stream. For those of you who don't know, he actually just started streaming on Twitch.
Oh, yeah?
He just does like a talk show or whatever where he just sits and chats with the people in his chat. He's, I think, David Scott Jaffe on Twitch.
That sounds right.
But anyway, if you're watching, David, good to see you, brother.
Twisted Metal.
Yeah, but his game, Twisted Metal, was kind of the first Battle Royale. Because now you're seeing it with like H1Z1, has like a Battle Royale mode that's like all vehicles. And I mean, Twisted Metal was kind of Battle Royale before it existed.
The old arena vehicle I remember what they were. Car battlers, I guess, what people called them.
Yeah.
It was a trend for a while. You had that, and you had Interstate 76, and that stupid Star Wars one that came out on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
So, it was so weird that was a thing for a while.
Yeah,
the
car combat games.
Twisted Metal started that. The old Armored Cores. You could remaster a bunch of those.
Yeah.
There was like 24 of those on
What
PlayStation.
was the Rockstar car combat game?
Auto Assault? No, that was an MMO.
It was like it's set in like a jungle or something. I can't remember what it was called. Somebody in chat, I bet you will know.
You know what I'd like to see Rockstar do like a remake of that they'll never ever 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 do would be Body Harvest. I think that'd be a brilliant idea. I loved Body Harvest. I love the idea of Body Harvest. I've always wanted a GTA expansion where like the Body Harvest aliens show up and just destroy Liberty City and you have to fight back.
That game was really frustrating, though.
Oh yeah, but it was the prototype for GTA 3.
Oh, it absolutely was. It absolutely was. But there was like moments in that game. First of all, the scale of that game was gigantic. It made GTA look like a hamlet. But there was points where you'd like get in a plane and you'd fly and you'd crash and you just get stuck.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go.
You couldn't go anywhere. You literally could not get out of where you landed. Like that happened to me over and over again.
Yeah, that was
I
at
never
the end
finished
of it. I got to the last level, the Siberia. I think it was the Siberia level was the last level, and I never finished it. I did get like
I don't know anyone who's finished that game.
Get some of the
I don't even know if it's possible to finish Body Harvest.
I got to the planes and I flew around and blew some stuff up and I crashed the plane and I was like, well, I'm good. Once I get the plane in a game, I'm good. I mean, that was also like a problem with the jungle level was like the big.
That's the last level I got to.
You had to destroy. I think it was level 2. Yeah, and like you had to destroy basically the big like base or whatever, like the big like kind of Triffid looking thing.
Yeah.
And like the best way to do that is to basically go through all this horrible like just kind of grinding shit to get to this B-17, this bomber, and you fly the bomber over the boss and just bomb it, and you instead of like sitting there and having to shoot it with your little pistol, you bomb it and destroy it and you win. But if something goes wrong and that bomber crashes, that whole area where the boss is like basically complete no man. Like you'll never get out because
you can't get back.
It's all weird ridges you can't climb.
Yep.
So you're basically screwed.
That game was delayed over and over and over again.
It was supposed to be a launch title.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing it in like all the magazines. It was always
Nintendo was supposed to publish it, and it just like went off into crazy town. And Activision picked it up and put it out like in '98, I think
DMA
it was, or later. Yeah. DMA Design, and they made GTA 3 and. I mentioned that, hey, this is like that body harvest thing, and though they didn't like
Oh,
that.
no. What are you talking about?
They did not like that notion.
That
You might totally like it. You just jump in the car and everything. Just shut up, stop talking about body harvest.
Our discussion of body harvest actually segues very nicely into our next discussion, which is Watch Dogs 3 was confirmed this week. And this wasn't a retailer slip or a developer slip or some dude looking at his laptop on the subway. This was straight out of this app that Ubisoft has that when it was announced and launched, people were like, what the hell is that thing? And as it turns out, it actually has some value because they let slip on the app that Watch Dogs 3 is, in fact, in development. Shocker.
Sounds like, yeah, I mean, I think we knew there was another one of those coming at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the second one sold pretty well.
Pretty well, but also, like, you can, I mean, look, the first one also sold pretty well. It was like...
The first one sold better, I think, than the...
Because, there was nothing there to buy. It was like one of the earliest next-gen games, so a lot of people got it just because it was like, okay, this is an open-world game that looks like pretty good, next-gen, something to play. It got the launch window bump.
Well, it got the bullshot bump.
That too. But you don't sell that many copies off of that because most people don't even know that happened. This one I liked Watch Dogs 2, but I found it weird and tonally kind of broken in some ways. Like for some it has kind of an interesting take on the world and how things work, but then when you play the actual game and the missions, it feels like a very standard by rote open world like crime game.
Absolutely,
which is weird because
with maybe a little bit more of a focus on stealth.
Somewhat, but also, like, I mean, they gave you tons of weapons and stuff, and there's a certain point at which I'm like, I feel like Marcus, the guy you're playing, I feel like he wouldn't murder thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like
he was too nice.
And eventually they did do a DLC pack that like gave you a bunch of non-lethal things that were better than what came in the basic game. But like there was a certain, after I like headshotted like the 50th dude in one mission, I'm like, I just don't feel like this guy does this.
That wasn't his personality
and
at
then
all.
comes back to this board game shop and starts talking about the cool Haxor stuff he just did.
Yeah.
Like I mean, the man carries like a yo-yo as his like
totally
melee
off,
weapon. It was just very weird.
I liked him as a character, but
Yeah.
you're right. What he was forced to do in the game made no sense for his personality whatsoever.
But like, I had fun with it more like as a toy. I spent literal hours using the like auto drive, like taking over the cars. You make them like speed up and
fun. Yeah,
I caused havoc with that, blowing entire intersections up. I played with the traffic and the pedestrians in this game more than probably any game since GTA 3.
Yeah,
like that was the fun part to me.
I mean, you kind of hacked the game.
Yeah,
you found your own enjoyment, and I think that's what a lot of these open world crime-based games are about: is providing that toy, that sandbox to fiddle around with. And just mess with it however you want. Make sure there are rules that apply, so you actually have some kind of a motivation to do things. So you have a framework to work from, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I think this game did a good job of that. But to me, the setting of it and the characters, I just ultimately just did not care. I think I liked it more than the first one, maybe a little.
Sort of. I mean,
the first one was very drab and bland.
Right. I like the setting because it's where I grew up.
Like, of course. I mean, the rendition of San Francisco is the best in a video game ever.
Also, I think this is the first time, because I grew up on the peninsula, this might be the first time in my entire life I've seen San Mateo in a frickin' game. I mean, also, like, I think I even mentioned it when the game was first out here, but, like, they nailed that area in terms of tone and kind of like, you have like the humorous pedestrian comedy, like nailed it. Yeah. And my early on, because first thing I did when I got like freedom to run around the map was I drove down the peninsula to get
where
to
you live,
Palo Alto, where I live, look around. And at some point I was going through Palo Alto, which looks just as unfamiliar as it to me here as it does in real life now, because it's all different. And I was driving around on a motorcycle and I was going too fast and I hit a car and I kind of flipped over and hit. Like Marcus flipped over and hit a building and like just smacked into the building and fell down. And a passing pedestrian goes, "Oh, I just can't stand that crunch sound." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's home! Like I'm home! Like that's who people are in that town." Like it was like the idea that the worst thing about what just happened is how it affected you is like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of California in a nutshell, isn't it?
True, but like it's just that kind of the Silicon Valley area. I mean, I'm sure I don't need to convince people outside of California, that the Silicon Valley area is ripe for that kind of satire. But I'm just saying they don't really live in the same world we do, and even by me live in LA, California standards, like that's not the same world, you know? And so like I'm just saying if you played Watch Dogs 2 and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe some of the crazy," like I'm telling you, it's not that far
crazy.
Not that crazy.
How do you feel about the third game? What do you want from it? Do you want it to continue the story of this group of elite hacksaws?
I wouldn't mind seeing Marcus again, but I do kind of feel like this one tried a little too hard,
right?
In a lot of places, especially like kind of the visual design. I wouldn't mind going back to a little more sinister aspect of things because look, hacktivist stuff notwithstanding, like. These people are horrible criminals, and I'm still stealing tons of money from people as I pass by them with my phone. You know, like these are not nice people.
Yeah.
And while Aiden was a terrible character in the first game,
very bland,
who basically
the whole game was kind of bland,
who basically ruined the lives of everyone around him, including his sister and obviously his niece, who gets killed because of what he's doing.
Spoiler
for the first 5 minutes of the game from 2014.
Right.
Yes.
Some people get testy about that stuff.
Yeah, well, some people are dumb. Also, Thanos is in Infinity War. Sorry. Like, who knew? There are people complaining that, like, the new ad for Infinity War shows, like, more Infinity Stones in his gauntlet than the last one. And they're like, oh, my God, the spoilers. He got... Like, of course he gets all the Infinity Stones. That's the story. The spoiler is how he gets them.
Do you think my mom will notice that there's more Infinity Stones?
Is your mom freeze framing step by step through the new trailer to find this shit to then go on Twitter and complain about spoilers and the thing that she frame by frame through? Because otherwise, probably not.
You know what? I do not believe I would notice that there are extra Infinity Stones. Did you?
Yeah, I don't care.
Right.
If I don't want spoilers, I'm not going to watch your trailer.
It's just so funny to me how people
guess what? I already bought my tickets. I don't need to see another trailer for this movie. I'm already there.
People get so bent out of shape over the silliest stuff now. It's just crazy.
But I would like to see going a little wacky with it isn't terrible, but like rein it in a little bit. I think the emphasis on one of the things that annoyed me about 2 was how they generated those stupid random missions, like kind of the online missions where they wanted you to team up with people online or whatever. And it's like they mix those in with your main story stuff and all, and like you could never get rid of them all. Like you could never clear your log, and that bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah, you're OCD like that.
And I'm like, put those in a separate tab so I can ignore them forever. And I know that's not going to happen because Ubisoft thinks that's why I'm going to play this game forever and buy their microtransactions and stuff like that's how they want to monetize their open world games. Is you see that with Far Cry 5 with like. The arcade, they expect that for some reason the Far Cry arcade is going to keep us playing for a year or something. It's like, no, come on. Like
you'll fiddle around with the 10 best projects or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I'll play it long enough to get a trophy and never look at it again. Like that's what people do. So
I think what I would say about the third Watch Dogs that I would like to see is kind of a middle ground between the two games. I thought the first game was too bland and serious, and then I thought this game was too goofy and irreverent. And they don't feel like they're from the same franchise to me. Like, you could have told me that this was some other lead hacksaws, the game or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, fine. I never would have said, oh, this is a Watch Dogs game. There are some tenuous threads between the two games if you really are a fan and you know what to look for. But otherwise, I thought the tone of the two games could not be different.
Yeah, you can tell basically through the interface is the main thing they share.
Exactly, those lines. Yeah. That's one of the tells, but... I thought the first game was too far one direction. I thought this game was too far the other, and I hope that they find a happy medium for the third one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there is a great game in this Watch Dogs
concept
absolutely. Somewhere.
We don't need a game that's just dour and dull and intense the whole time, and we don't need one that's like millennials on a disc either.
Right, and you need a better demo than that drone thing you did at E3 for this, because that was, oh my god, you stopped the conference dead.
Also, I was just like, wait, I've been playing Splinter Cell for like 12 years now.
Yeah.
Like, does this really do anything different from that?
Yeah, let's have a Sam Fisher cameo in Watch Dogs 3. Let's see what happens.
Well, he's appearing in
He's everywhere now.
Well, I think they're getting ready to announce a new Splinter Cell.
I would think so. And at least Michael Ironside is back, because that was the big mistake they made with Conviction.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even even had a shout out to Solid Snake.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, maybe Ubisoft feels like this is Splinter Cell now, though. Because Splinter Cell was a stealth franchise. This, for an open world game, this easily has the most stealth of any open world action adventure on the market.
Yeah, well, it's also...
Except for maybe Assassin's Creed, but even the new Assassin's Creed, this has more.
Also, I feel like in the world we live in now, it's very hard to make a Splinter Cell that, A, feels sufficiently fictional.
Yeah, you're right.
And, like, doesn't kind of cross over into, like, oh, that's a little too real kind of territory. You know, like we're in a weird place right now. Probably not the most Tom Clancy-friendly
you're right.
era.
You're absolutely right. But here's the thing.
Where would you want Watch Dogs 3 to take place?
New York City.
Ugh, how boring.
How's that boring?
Everyone does New York. New York is just New York.
There's only so many cities.
Yeah, but
every games have done L.A., New York, San Francisco, Miami.
Nobody's done San Francisco and L.A. that much. Like, San Francisco's, I can think of 3 games.
Really?
Yeah.
That have done L.A.?
San Francisco. I mean, they can't go to San Francisco. They already went to San Francisco. But San Francisco doesn't pop up in open world games much. L.A. doesn't either. I mean, GTA does it. True Crime L.A. did it 13 years ago.
Midnight Club.
That's not the same. If I can't get out of the car, it doesn't count.
Well, if you changed your demand. At first, it was just L.A. or San Francisco in games, and then it became
well, if we're going to count all games, I don't.
I was just talking about visual representations of a city.
I don't care about that.
Video
I mean,
games.
using the city as a setting for Watch Dogs. For how what city would benefit Watch Dogs the most? And
I think New York, because New York has all those 5 different boroughs, all these distinct neighborhoods.
They're not going to do that.
Ethnic enclaves.
They're going to do a chunk of Manhattan that's just a giant grid, and it's going to be the same thing we already saw in Liberty City 1,000 times. And we're already going to get a better version of New York this fall in Spider-Man. So
I mean, look,
I would prefer them go somewhere weird.
Are you talking about U.S. only or
anywhere?
Oh, well then Barcelona would be a great city for Watch Dogs. Is
that a tech place? I don't know anything about
Is any
Barcelona.
place not a tech place in 2018?
True.
Amsterdam would be a great city for a setting.
Amsterdam would be interesting, and you could mix the more serious stuff with the more lighthearted stuff in Amsterdam pretty easily.
What about Venice? Definitely not a tech hub.
No, and
there's no city like it.
The high speed stuff would take a hit from the boats.
Right. Well, just imagine though if it was an open world game where you didn't have cars, you had bikes,
that could be interesting if it took place just sort of in
mopeds,
Italy.
And you had boats.
That could be interesting if it was if it did like a San Andreas thing where you had like Rome, Italy, and like Napoli, or something like that.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting for sure. Because all those cities are very distinct.
Or if it all took place kind of in a general Mediterranean sort of Rome, Athens, kind of a Greece sort of. You took place in that sort of Baltic area where like the economy's going in the tubes. But
it'll be better than another Vice City. We don't need to see Miami again, that's for sure.
Or yeah.
But look, San Francisco was a good city for the game.
San Francisco is a good city, but I mean, I don't think you can stay there.
No.
I feel like LA is a little too predictable, and GTA 5 already did it.
Yeah.
In a way that like no one wants to touch LA because
if you're talking about a grid, I mean, LA is pretty much a big grid.
It's a series of grids that collide in horribly frightening ways.
Yeah.
If you're
and then
if you
go to the edge of the grid, you get to the beach.
Yeah, the beach or the desert.
Right.
Or the Orange County, and then you're like, I'd rather be in the desert.
But I think that's why California is used so much, because we have all these microclimates.
Every kind of terrain.
I mean, within 2 hours of here, we can go surfing, we can go snowboarding, we can go to the desert.
You can find any kind of environment in California except tundra.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, Antarctica, stuff like that.
Yep. You can't find, like, tundra. Yeah. That's about it.
I think you say that about most states.
True.
Except for Alaska.
Well, I mean, there's places in Montana that would probably count.
Yeah, you're right.
Technically.
So are you excited about Watch Dogs 3?
Not yet. I mean, in the sense that
Will you be?
It depends. I have to see what it is. I mean, I am excited in the sense that I think Watch Dogs has a ton of potential.
Like, if Ubisoft just emailed us right now and said, hey, you guys are invited to a Watch Dogs preview event next Thursday. Would you be excited to go to it?
Where is it?
Wherever you want it to be. It's not about where it is. It's about the game. Are you excited about it?
But it is about where it is because I will travel only so far for Watch Dogs 3. I don't care what it is.
Okay. Well, let's say it's 2 miles away from your place in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'll probably go to that.
But are you excited about it? Are you
I don't know. I need to see it.
When you sit down in the seat, are you like, man, I can't wait to see this? Because there are some games when I would get that invite and I'm like, like the night before, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to check out the new Metroid tomorrow or whatever. Like, there are games that get me going like that. Watch Dogs isn't one of those franchises, though.
I'd have to see it. I have to know what it is. I have to know where it takes
Assassin's
place.
Creed is still a franchise like that for me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd feel like that about Origins back in the time because they're reinventing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have felt that way about Syndicate, because it's just.
But I'm just saying, before you know what it is, I'm excited to find out what it is. And with Assassin's Creed, I'm like that. There's lots of franchises I'm like, but with this one, I'm not. I don't necessarily know why, but
I mean, I'm interested to find out what it is. But I guess in the context of like an event, I don't know if I'd want the Ubisoft people to see my face when it's revealed because I might not be. It might be disappointing. I don't even really have a lot of expectations for Watch Dogs 3. I don't know. Like I asked like what city you would pick because I don't really have a city in mind. Like Chicago's a good. We don't see a lot of Chicago in these open world games. You don't see a lot of San Francisco.
You don't see a lot of Midwest, middle
I was actually
US
about to
at all.
say like the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
You really think that would be good?
I don't know if it'd be good, but it's a tech-appropriate location.
I think Austin probably would be the best
Austin
Texas
as well.
city.
But you can do that whole kind of Austin, San Antonio
Yeah.
kind of like you could do like a San Andreas style thing.
Like I just got invited to Shadow of the Tomb Raider event, like at the end of this month. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what the new Tomb Raider looks like, how it plays. But if I got that same invite for Watch Dogs 3, I would not be all that excited.
I'd have to know more about it. Like right now, I'm just like they're gonna do it. They're officially doing another one. I expected they would do of a series that I think has a ton of potential that it has never lived up to.
Yeah,
and maybe this time they will. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it does have potential.
Yeah.
I mean, it really with this franchise, the sky is kind of the limit because of its technology bent.
Yeah,
But I just don't feel like it's ever lived up to that potential.
No.
Due to myriad issues. It's not just one thing. It seems like with each of the games, it was different things that kind of kept it from reaching that height.
And I don't know.
Reaching that radical height.
We just don't know.
Worst game name ever.
There's a little bit of that same Watch Dogs 2 try hard.
Yeah, you're right.
In that as well. I don't know. I would think about setting it in Tokyo, maybe.
Oh, Tokyo's great for any game. Absolutely.
Or Seoul.
I've never been there.
Like Asia would be a valid location for just about any major city. There would be a good location.
Yeah, there was
for
a
Watch Dogs
one
game.
GTA that was set. It wasn't actually. It was set in like Japantown in the United States, right? It wasn't actually set in.
It was
Asia.
like Chinatown Wars, or there
Right.
was yeah.
It wasn't actually set.
It was
in
not
China.
set in it. Yeah, I think GTA is almost inextricably American at this point. It's about America.
It is. It's a satire of
And they'd
our
prefer-
wondrous society.
They'd prefer we just forget about that one expansion that took place in London.
Yeah.
That was seemed mostly influenced by Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Swinging 60s London.
Yeah.
I mean, look, man, I'd play that GTA in a heartbeat.
I would too.
Today. I mean, that'd be a great. But I just don't think that's what they think the series is anymore.
Yeah. I don't think they want to take the piss out of their own country. They want to take it out of
There's
ours.
plenty of piss to be taken out of every country, probably.
sure.
But like, it's just if you're talking about universal appeal, Americans love to see themselves, and everyone outside of America loves to see Americans made fun of. So
I like seeing us made fun of. I'm
that's
totally fine with it.
That's your universal appeal right there.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another open.
They're punching up.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk next about another open world game. Although I didn't really realize it was an open world game until Game Informer did some excellent coverage of it for its cover story this month, and that is Marvel Spider-Man from Insomniac. We talked about them a lot this episode already. So Game Informer has been blowing this game out. Up until now, we kind of only had that one gameplay demo and a couple trailers. Really, the game was kind of shrouded in secrecy. Most of the previous Spider-Man games were either open world or kind of a pseudo open world. You kind of have to have that if you're going to do the web slinging.
You need some space.
Yeah. Matt, have you been following the coverage of this on Game Informer?
More or less. I mean, I read most of the Game Informer stuff, or watched most of the stuff. I got to admit, I'm kind of in a place where I'm like, I don't need to see any more in this game.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're both excited for it. We're both going to play it. But tons and tons of details were revealed in the Game Informer stuff. What kind of caught your eye? What made the biggest impact on you?
Well, the most important thing, I think, is the description of how the web swinging works, which is obviously what everybody worries
thing you do the
about.
most, yes. Really important.
And how it's, it does seem to be fairly open-ended in terms of how you choose to do it. It's about momentum. It's about, kind of linking one thing to the next. The parkour, or as one of the Game Informer guys said, Peter parkour, which the Insomniac guys were like, yes, we made that joke already, believe it or not.
Like a million times.
But kind of like, because it was hard to kind of get an idea in like the E3 demo of how that all worked, or if it was more canned, because you can do it without, the original Spider-Man movie game and the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast game just sort of like had it as kind of a generic transit, like, thing. You just held the button and he moved kind of thing. And it was Spider-Man 2 that sort of brought in, which, by the way, Spider-Man 2 is a terrible game. But it happens to have a really good swinging mechanic, or at least it did for the time. And it used physics to kind of, you had to keep the momentum going, and you had to actually attach to an actual building and not magically attach to the sky, which is not true to the comics, I might add. He attaches webs to God half the time, it seems like. Just wherever
in the comics?
In the comic, yeah. There's not a lot of attention paid to where he would have
where
to...
the web's going?
Unless there's a joke to be made
right.
about how, there's no tall buildings in L.A., so there's been a couple times he visited California or whatever, and he's like, oh my God, I ran out of buildings, because New York is much taller.
That'll never happen. Yeah.
And so they seem to be kind of doing a nice sort of happy medium on that. Like, I am not married to the idea of web swinging has to be perfectly physics accurate, because it should be fun. It should,
absolutely.
For my money, the best Spider-Man game ever made is Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Which is the one where the symbiotes take over the entire city.
Yeah.
But it's the closest thing to a Spider-Man game that I would want that they've ever gotten, and I feel like they nailed the balance of like fun and easy control of the web swinging versus versatility and how I was able to swing around. This looks a little better than that in terms of kind of how they're giving you the freedom to sort of keep that momentum going. You swing down, you swing over. If you hit a building, you don't just smack into the building. You run up the building, and then you have options of how to run over the top of the building to either keep yourself moving forward.
That's always been
give yourself
dicey
a ton
in
of height.
Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
Once you get attached to the side of a building, how it handles.
How you get away.
How you get away. Which way is
which
up
direction,
or down?
Yeah.
When you get to the top at the corner?
Do you jump over? Do you jump around?
When you get up to the top corner of the building, do you go up over and stand up, or do you hang on the edge? That's always been a problem in almost every Spider-Man game.
So from the descriptions in this, it seems like Insomniac spent a lot of time thinking about that too.
Yeah.
And they seem to have come up with some pretty good solutions for it in terms of like you have the choice of either parkouring over the side, over the top, or kind of leaping past and continuing the swing, or using a zip line to kind of pull yourself over the building top. You have options everywhere. It seems like options is kind of the watchword for this game.
No,
in
you're
terms
right.
Of how you fight and how you move and all that kind of how you dress even.
Yeah, because there's like 6 different suits.
More
than 6.
Well, in the Game Informer article, the guy said the guy said
there was like a punk rock Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's from the comics as well. But the multiverse thing, the multiverse thing is really expanding the number of suits that you can deal with. But he said
I discovered my lack of knowledge of Spider-Man reading this coverage. I was like, wow, I don't know half of what I thought I did.
The reporter said they showed him like a bunch of like silhouetted, indistinguishable suits to be unlocked. And he wrote, there was 24 on a screen. So he wrote down 24, and they stopped him and said, oh, there's more than that.
Really?
But there's tons of Spider-Man suits. Because what you have to also remember is...
Because they change his abilities.
Yes. You can change they each come with a different ability, and you can also take abilities and transfer them to your favorite suits if you don't want to wear... I guess like the classic suit has quad damage. You can activate quad damage for a brief amount of time, but they said you can take that and apply to your other favorite suit if you don't want to have to wear the classic suit for that power.
There are some light RPG elements in it.
Mm-hmm. There's some crafting,
which I was really pleasantly surprised by.
I thought I feel like I knew that already.
I did not know that. I really thought it was kind of a more straightforward Spider-Man game. And I mean, in a lot of ways...
I may have been assuming it wasn't because I know that there's no way Insomniac could make that and people wouldn't freak out.
One thing
it had to be an open world action RPG.
Here's one thing that I never thought of until I read Game Informer's coverage is how similar Spider-Man is to Ratchet and Clank. Mm-hmm. That I totally slipped my mind how he's fixated on gadgets, and he always has these little gadgets that he uses. Maybe not to the extent that Batman does, but there's a gadget wheel. So you select the gadgets just like you do in Ratchet and Clank. There's a wheel that pops up and you use the analog stick to select which one you want. That's how many gadgets there are in this game. Overall, the coverage that, based upon what Game Informer said, I am way more excited for this game than I was. I really kind of thought it was just going to be another Spider-Man game where you swing around town, go into the next waypoint, you get to the waypoint, you beat up a couple thugs, and there is a little bit of that based upon what I read. But it sounds like the structure is far more open. The mission objectives sound a lot more varied. That was another problem with prior Spider-Man games. They ran out of things for you to do. It was always just like, hey, there's these group of thugs robbing an old lady in the alley. Go beat up the thugs. Either that or...
that's high concept for some of those old Spider-Man games. I mean, how many times in Spider-Man 2 did you have to rescue that damn kid's balloon?
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Or just like the lack of control. Like, it's so hard to nail kind of how he plays. Like, Spider-Man 2 is fun when you're swinging around, but like the instant you have to start actually playing the game.
Yeah.
I remember I gave up playing that game during one Mysterio boss fight where you had to do this platforming section that I swear to God felt like it was built by someone who had never touched the jumping mechanic. Because I'm I can't jump that far. That's not I can't control, and the camera doesn't want to show me the ground, so I don't know where I'm going to land. That was, and Insomniac. I've always had faith that Insomniac was going to make something great here. Because that's what Insomniac pretty much does. So, except for Fuse.
Pretty much. I don't know. I mean,
also,
Sunset Overdrive was good, but I looked at that game a lot like Watch Dogs, where the tone just wasn't ever right for...
I love Sunset Overdrive from top to bottom, and I think Sunset Overdrive was actually the game that made me the most confident in the Spider-Man game from them, because you're kind of halfway there in that,
They had the wire grinding and all that stuff.
And like you've said before, we talked to them, a couple of those guys, right after they announced this at Pactor's party, that E3, and they were so excited to make this.
Yeah.
That that was the other thing that really boosted my confidence, is these guys really want to be there and really want to be doing this game. And in fact, Ted Price even says that in the Game Informer coverage, where they ask what his favorite thing about Brian, the lead, the director, is.
Who used to be a journalist.
Yeah, what's his favorite thing?
He used to write for EGM.
What's his favorite thing about Brian? And Ted Price says how excited he is to make a Spider-Man game.
Yeah,
is his favorite.
It makes
thing.
a big difference.
And that's a great answer to that, because certainly I'm sure there were times you can play some of those older Activision Spider-Man games and be okay, they were just finishing the contract,
right?
The Amazing Spider-Man games.
We had a friend who worked on some of those.
Yeah, well,
they were always passable.
Yeah, but he also was a big Spider-Man fan and tried to put that into him, and that happened a lot. But then you got later on, I felt like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just we gotta make one last Spider-Man game before this contract's up.
No, absolutely.
And we gotta move on. That's also how I felt about that last Transformers game they made, Rise of the Dark Spark, or whatever it was.
I've got to say that because I know Insomniac's games, and I know mechanically Insomniac's games are always top notch. I have a really good feeling that this could be the best superhero game ever made.
There's a possibility for sure.
I think
it's definitely going to be in the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City range.
That's what I'm talking about. And now that Batman is gone, obviously Rocksteady's not even making Batman anymore. This has...
We'll see what we get out of that. They should be about ready to announce something.
E3, we should see Rocksteady's new game, and I don't think it has anything to do with superheroes, although
I think
it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
I think it's Suicide Squad.
Really? Rumors obviously have been Superman, but
nah,
Superman games just don't interest me.
I think it's going to be the Suicide Squad game that that ironically the other team teased at the end of Arkham Origins, because that's the only thing that they really have from the DC Cinematic Universe that really had any kind of cultural impact. Because
I would rather see a unique IP, original IP from...
I agree, but I think you're going to get a Suicide Squad game. I think the only thing they have going right now is that kind of thing. That sort of hit, you've got recognizable characters that could kind of form like a Arkham-style sort of open worldy sort of thing they could work with, and you've got Harley Quinn up front and center, and Harley Quinn is the only DC character currently that I think has universally positive like pop culture impact right now.
Yeah.
So focus on Harley and get some Deadshot in there, get some Deathstroke in there, and I think you've got your formula.
I should have mentioned that there's not a lot of stiff competition for best superhero video game ever, by the way.
Not.
It's not a flooded market of excellence.
No. But I do, at the very least, I will not be surprised if this is now the best Spider-Man game ever made.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, it's probably the first one.
First what?
Spider-Man game. That's the one I had the most fun with.
Web of Shadows is my pick for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, but I don't think I even played Web of Shadows, to be honest.
Web of Shadows is great, by Shaba Games, who were shut down immediately afterward, never got a chance to make another thing. But it captured everything very, very well, I thought. I like the original PS1 Dreamcast one as well.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Which is one of the best written, I think. It's much funnier.
Which is the tone of Spider-Man, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually got my favorite Venom scene in the history of anything, which is where he teams up with Venom to figure out what's going on, and Venom's like, "Oh, are we gonna surf the web?"
Oh yeah.
And and then it cuts to them in the library, like looking for and like Venom's standing on a desk with a computer, his foot on a computer, going, "Surf the web, and it's like, yeah, it's Venom. Like when Venom's feeling weird, that's what Venom is. Probably not how the Tom Hardy Venom is gonna play out, but there we go. Tom Venom hardly in it. God, I wonder if Venom's in this one. Probably not.
I mean, you got 26 outfits at least.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the black costume's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised if they put Venom in this because Venom's got his movie coming up.
Well, I'll say this much, and that's why the graphics.
Maybe there'll be Venom DLC. They said there's going to be story DLC mission stuff.
Yeah.
So.
To me, this coverage has completely swung my opinion of it. It's not that I wasn't excited for it. I really just thought that it was going to be another Spider-Man game with better production values. But now, after reading the coverage from Game Informer, my opinion has swung. Thus, the graphic.
Yeah, this is mostly just confirmed everything I was expecting it to be. So I'm also pleased. Also, I think Game Informer's done a really good job with the coverage. It
has been really good.
It's varied. It's interesting. It's informative. It's not the same thing over and over again. That one video where they asked Brian 114 questions.
They do that with almost all their cover stories.
Yeah,
I love those.
I've never seen that before. That was very fun. That was very funny.
They did one with God of War as well. That was really good.
Oh, with Corey.
Yeah.
A
lot of it depends on who's answering the questions.
Yeah. It depends who's doing it.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm really excited for Spider-Man. It's going to be hard for Insomniac to keep this a PlayStation 4 exclusive. They could make so much. I mean, I realize they don't have the choice.
Yeah, I don't think they.
But man, they could make so much more money off of this game if it was multi-platform.
I think it'll do okay.
It absolutely will, but you could make a lot more if it were on other platforms. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it on the X1X.
Yeah.
The Xbox.
Yeah. Well, you get your PS4 Pro out. Give it a little workout.
Yeah. Well, my PS4 Pro's always out.
Yeah.
It was out today to play the Witcher 3 HDR patch.
How did that look, by the way?
It's garbage.
Is it?
You had
to wait for forever to get it.
The drawing for the LOD drawing is like the trees are popping in and out of existence. It's awful. It's like they need to fix it. Like they broke it. They broke the draw distance.
Wow.
So
maybe that's why it took so long to come out.
I've also been. Yeah, I don't know what. I guess they punted in the end. That's weird. It did not look good. Apparently, it's even worse than like the 1080p downsampling setting.
Weird.
So yeah, but in comparison, I was playing it on Xbox One X because they had it on sale. So I'm like, sure, I'll own The Witcher 3 on every platform. Why not?
Yeah.
And I played that because they have the 4K HDR on that too, and it looks amazing. Looks. I mean, it's not 60 frames a second like on my PC, but it looks pretty damn good. Or maybe it is 60. I can't remember. But yeah, the PS4 Pro is always out. It's ready. But I would totally buy an Xbox One X version of Spider-Man. But
I think a lot of people would.
I feel like Sony would have something to say about that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Insomniac's already went on record saying no way it comes to any other platform.
Of course not. Sony publishing and funding it.
Yeah, it's not even just a timed exclusive. It's just
no.
Eternal.
I mean, Sony also has the license, and Sony has the license for the movies, and so.
Yeah.
I mean, Sony is very tied in with the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, remember the PlayStation 3 was like they used the font from the Spider-Man movie on the PlayStation 3.
Well, hell, up until this past weekend, the first Spider-Man movie was the #1 domestic box office champion for Sony of all time.
Yeah.
Just got passed this past weekend by Jumanji. Jumanji.
I know, it's
Believe
crazy.
It or The Rock is
Dude,
just,
The Rock is just gold.
Yeah, well,
you watch this stupid ass Rampage movie is gonna have a big
the
opening.
Rampage movie is reviewing like crazy,
like getting good reviews.
Like people are saying it's the best video game movie ever made for whatever that's worth. I mean,
but it's not even really like a video game movie.
but like it's Rampage.
It just has
Rampage, close enough.
So
as much as anything.
Yeah, people love The Rock.
It's got to be closer than House of the Dead.
Yeah.
But at the very least, I've seen it's like best video game movie at least since like Mortal Kombat, which was 23 years ago.
Yeah.
22 years.
That's not saying much.
It's not a high bar, but it's still.
The bar is very low.
But still, like, this is a pretty obvious one.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like...
I didn't think Assassin's Creed was terrible. I watched it on HBO a couple times.
It
wasn't good.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's also like, Michael Fassbender, what are you doing? You're better. I mean, I can see why you'd think like, oh, this would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
My main problem with the Assassin's Creed movie is like maybe 20 minutes takes place in the past.
No, you're right.
It's like I don't, if somebody made
and it's like right at the beginning.
Right. If somebody made the game like that, I'd be like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. If you've seen the trailers, you've seen like a third of the past stuff already.
No, you're right.
Like, it's
you're absolutely right. They try to sell it that way. Yep.
But like, and Silent Hill was not an amazing translation of the game, but it was a decent little thing.
Yeah. I just enjoyed seeing a lot of those characters in the live action setting.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just enough for me to watch it at least. I wouldn't pay money to go see it at a theater though.
That's certainly why I ended up seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Very interested to see what Illuminations does with that property.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm excited about it. We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not an Illuminations fan, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm fascinated by how you would make a coherent narrative out of that property in a way that isn't stupid like the old cartoons used to be.
Yeah.
That like kind of fits that sort of blockbuster CG movie formula that everything fits. Are we going to see Mario with like the one eyebrow up in the with the DreamWorks face on the trailers, the posters?
Probably.
Maybe? I mean, it's gonna, and like Nintendo's probably gonna have an iron grip on the the editorial on everything.
Absolutely, yeah. Which could be a huge mistake. We
Who's
talked about that before.
Yeah. Who's gonna voice him? Like what does he sound like? I don't think he used Charles Martinet.
You have to.
I don't think so.
He is the voice of Mario.
He's the weird, barky, chirpy voice of Mario, but he doesn't say lines. I mean, do you really think Mario should like have the weird Italian accent in this thing?
He has to.
No way. There's no way they do that.
Really?
There's no way they do. They're going to get nailed by like politically correct groups for that.
What's wrong with having an Italian accent?
No one freaking sounds like that. Like, no one sounds like, oh, mamma mia. That's
no, absolutely they do. I had a boss when I worked at school. I worked at a pizza place called the Owl's Nest right off Temple's campus, Temple Owls. And he absolutely spoke that way. He called me, he was actually Greek though. He called me Panayotes.
What?
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
That sounds like an insult.
No, it actually wasn't. He's like some Greek, not a god, but he was some Greek folk legend who just had all the women.
So it was a Greek guy with an Italian accent?
He spoke like Mario. I don't know that Mario actually is like an Italian accent.
I mean, that's what it's supposed to be.
But he'd be like, Shane, you like the pepperoni? Like, that's what he would say. Or he'd say, Panayotes, you like the oregano? And he wouldn't be asking me if I liked oregano. He'd be asking me if I liked something else.
Like Far Cry 5 oregano.
Right.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You like the oregano?
I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if Mario does not have any kind of accent.
I think he will.
Maybe
see.
a Brooklyn accent.
I'll bet you $1. All
right. I would just be shocked if they used Martinet.
Yeah.
It's just...
I think he is the voice of Mario, but you're right.
He's the voice of Mario,
but full voice work.
He is the voice of Mario, but guess what? Mario's voice is freaking annoying.
Yeah,
like, I don't want to listen to that for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you deliver whole lines in that voice and not just, like, just drive me crazy by the end of it. There's no way.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the PlayStation 5.
I don't know how we got to that from Spider-Man.
Yeah, we started talking about movies.
All right.
And then we just flew off on a tangent.
And
like
we tried to bring it back to video games, and then we ended up talking about your Greek-Italian oregano dealer. Owls, go Owls.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5, which we have discussed a couple times in the last 6 months because rumors just keep popping up.
Yeah, it's like no, it's this, and that's never coming. It's gonna be 4 years, next year, 2 years, this year. Like,
well, that was so the last rumor was this year, which I knew was just complete
crazy.
malarkey.
Like that would be you'd have that in production now. If
But
that was
people
happening.
really latched onto that, Matt. Like at night,
People are dumb.
they are.
Like,
Well, like a lot of YouTubers, they probably do it just for views or whatever, but like
you gotta talk about it one way or the other.
yeah,
you know?
I mean, a lot of times, before I go to sleep at night, I'll just go to YouTube and kind of skim over and see what's. And like last week, it was all like PlayStation 5 in 2018, like over and over and over again.
And the next Zelda's coming in September. Sure.
Yeah,
like as long as we're making shit up.
Well, I think
I know it came out of a publication you have to subscribe to for like $1,000, but that doesn't mean it's right.
dude. Do you think they have subscribers?
Someone subscribes to it. I mean, that's not crazy for like an industry journal of some kind. Like
$1,000.
If it's part of like your corporate budget to subscribe to something like that, it's not like something like individual, like private citizens do.
Don't you find it crazy though that a publication that asks for that much money to subscribe would have such an unsubstantiated information?
Well, they're just reporting the news.
That makes no sense. This year makes zero sense.
Like, it would be being made in factories now if that was the case, and we'd know about it. There's no way if you can't keep Watch Dogs 3 and Spyro quiet, you can't keep that quiet.
Yeah. Well, the good that came out of it was our favorite games journalist, some would argue the only real games journalist, Jason Schreier from Kotaku, it lit a fire under his...
Klepek does the work, too.
Yeah, I honestly don't read his stuff very much, but it lit a fire under Jason Schreier's ass, and he went out and started digging. And he went and talked to literally, I was shocked, he talked to developers at first-party studios who talked to him about this, third parties, indies. He could not find anybody that has heard anything about the PlayStation 5.
Of course not.
None of them. And so they're like, well, okay, we heard the rumor about the dev kits. We haven't heard about any dev kits.
Right. It was after that dev kit thing. It was interesting to notice like nobody I know has heard of anything firsthand.
Right.
About that. So I don't, if anyone does have dev kits, I don't know who that is.
Well, he did say that like first party guys wouldn't have never told him if they had the dev kits. But
usually if you like someone will say like, well, no, I can't comment on that, as opposed to like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was just unanimous. Everyone was just like, we haven't heard anything about PlayStation 5. And then at the GamesBeat Summit I think it was over this past weekend, Andrew House reappears out of nowhere, and they're grilling him about...
some kind of WWE match.
Literally.
It's Andrew House, he's got a folding chair! It's like what's... Like,
he's got the PlayStation 5!
He's beating Don Madrick with the PlayStation 5! By God, somebody stop the match! It's like...
Here comes Undertaker! Here comes the Taker! So anyway, he's at GamesBeat and they're grilling him. He doesn't work at Sony anymore. He left. But they all know that he knows.
Right.
So the whole time, like, this panel's supposed to be about something else, and instead they're just, like, hammering him about PlayStation 5. And he wouldn't really answer any questions, except the one thing he said was that I believe that console generations should last longer than they have been. Mm-hmm. And if you remember correctly, the last generation of PlayStation lasted like 8 years. So Schreier, in combination with Mr. House, equals we aren't seeing PlayStation 5 for a while.
Mm-hmm. Which I think was what I originally believed anyway.
Schreier said 2020 at the earliest.
That's about where I was at before, until like the dev kit rumor was like, okay, maybe 2019 is not, but like then it turned out that like, oh, that didn't really pan out, and Schreier's article was one of the main things that sort of torpedoed that idea.
Yeah, so it looks like we're not getting another PlayStation. It looks like that PS4 Pro is going to be on market for quite a while.
Yeah,
which I don't know if is a good idea.
Although, I mean, you could put another revision of that out.
Yeah, I guess you could.
And just call it a PlayStation 4 Pro Plus.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what they would call it.
Whatever, and just keep moving up the chain that way until you hit a point where you felt you could slap the next number on something.
Yeah. But that's the problem, though. If you keep doing these increments, how do you ever slap the next number on something?
Well, I think that's kind of the thing we're facing. Like, are we ready to say goodbye to the generation idea? You know?
Well, that was a part of the report, was that the one thing the developer said is that they do believe that it will be a generational leap when it does come. which leads me to believe that we're not going to see another incremental upgrade. The PS4 Pro.
We're going straight to ray tracing, baby.
Yeah. Well, PS4 Pro is probably just going to end up being the only PS4 on the market. They'll probably discount the base model to get rid of all the stock that they have, and then they'll just set the PS4 Pro at the old price of the base.
Yeah.
And then the only thing you'll be able to buy is the Pro, and I'm guessing that goes for a year and a half or something like that, and then the PS5 comes out.
I just hope the PS5 is a piece of hardware that can do because I felt that both the Xbox One and the PS4 were underpowered for when they launched and how much they
Xbox
cost.
One in particular, absolutely,
yes.
yeah.
Well, because they use the slow RAM. They wanted more RAM in the Xbox One to handle all the OS stuff, but in the process they used cheaper, slower RAM, which meant that the OS ran like a dog.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Xbox One X is close. I mean, obviously it's advanced in ways you couldn't have had it been in 2013.
X has DDR5, is that right?
That sounds right to me, yeah. I mean, I'm very happy with how the Xbox One X performs. Like, not just the game stuff, but in terms of how snappy the OS is. Like,
really?
They finally fixed that for the
Oh, wow. It only took a beast of a machine.
Well, it's also better on the vanilla one.
It is?
After an update like late last year. It's not perfect, but
I've been using it. It still seems laggy to me.
It felt better for a while because I'm
the only person left on the planet who has the base Xbox One, I believe.
I still have it.
I don't even have an S. I just have the Xbox One.
I still have day one. My day
really?
one edition.
Okay.
My controller fried itself, but
my controller's a piece of junk now.
But I still have the system. Still works.
Yeah, mine works. Well, I've had it replaced 3 times, so.
I sent the controller back, and they sent it back because it wouldn't turn on, and they sent it back to me, and it still wouldn't sync.
Was it still the day one version that they sent back?
Still the day one version. I was very specific. I want my day one version back, and then it didn't work. So I'm like, okay. So I threw it on the couch, and I've told this story before. I threw it on the couch, and I picked up my other one. I started playing, and at one point I kind of stretched out, and I went to kick the day one controller out of the way of my foot, and it burned my foot. I was like, what?
Yeah,
and I went over and I picked it up, and it's flaming hot. And I open it, and like the batteries it's just been cycling power with no lights on, no nothing. Just been cycling power with the batteries for like 20 minutes, and it's scorching hot.
Oh my God.
And I knocked the batteries out, and I'm like, you sent me a time bomb? Maybe you pay for shipping this time. So
it could have burned your house down, literally.
Yeah, it was an apartment. It was covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I hadn't gone to kick the thing, I might have set my couch on fire after another 20 minutes, or at least starting to smolder. And you don't want a smoldering Xbox controller.
No, you don't. Or any controller. So do you think that this is good news for us as consumers?
Well, I mean, it's good news in the sense that we don't have to spend $500 for another year. So.
But what if you want to spend $500 to get a better piece of hardware?
This one's fine. Like it's not going to move units to look at the Xbox One X. Like there's an enthusiast demographic that's interested in like wringing the last ounce of power out of these things or of performance out of these games. And I certainly enjoy my X. But what I'm really most excited about on the Xbox One X right now is the fact they put a 4K patch on frickin' Red Dead Redemption.
Right.
I don't know what Microsoft is doing with all that stuff back there, because they're not touching the code. They're just doing that on the Xbox.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it looks great.
It really does.
So I'm super on board with what they're doing with their back catalog, but like, I mean, I'm sitting here excited to play Mercenaries 1 again. That game's like 15 years old. Like, I don't know. In the meantime, I'm just like, it's coming out in September. I don't know. Maybe another Forza, whatever. Yeah.
Don't you think, though, that most consumers, and I think this has been borne out through sales of PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, don't you think that the average consumer, though, is waiting for that number before they buy again?
You mean if they have like a PlayStation 4 and don't have a Pro? Maybe. I mean, you're going to be waiting a long time at that rate. I feel like most people don't, the mainstream audience doesn't care that much about, I
think they care when the new number comes out.
The new number, but it's just because it's a new number. I don't think they care, like, if I get the Pro, I'll get, like, this much extra resolution. And, like, no one thinks about it. Like, I've tried to explain that to some of my more casual gaming friends. They're like, that's not worth $400.
Yeah, they don't get it. Yeah.
And it's just like, but they're right,
They are right, yeah.
We're idiots to some degree in that regard. And, a 60 frames per second mode for something matters to me, and I'll play that. And certainly for something like Shadow of the Colossus, I feel like the Pro has delivered for what I wanted it to do. It's the same as the Xbox One X has. Although, I mean, I bought the Xbox One X in a large degree for things that have nothing to do with Microsoft's current game library, which is not a good thing for them. But I still bought one, and I still enjoy the 4K movies on it, and I still enjoy playing 360 games with better performance. And
more of those coming. 19 new games announced for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, that's, it's sort of like their version of like the Switch getting all the indie games from years ago. It's like you got to release something.
Well, Microsoft is figuring out that a lot of people like you, that's why they got the X, and they're making sure that they're providing content for that. It's
also great because it's like, Mercenaries is going, great. I'm just going to go get that disc and put it in, and I got it. I don't have to pay anything. It's just I got to wait for it to download, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And like that's a great deal. It's like you're leveraging the time when you were doing well.
Glory days.
It's never going to be a bad thing to remind me of the time when the Xbox was my primary platform, which it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's a wise thing to do if you don't have anything to throw down the old release pipeline, which they don't, except for apparently Crackdown 3, and that's not exactly exciting me to the degree of 4K Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, to any degree, to be perfectly honest with you. I've been on the record many times saying I'm not a big Crackdown
I mean, I got to
fan.
admit, the one backwards compatible game I loaded up on the Xbox One X that I just didn't stick with was Crackdown 1. I
told you.
No, well, see, I don't disagree with myself from 2000 whatever, but like I just don't think it holds up.
Well, Marcus,
it holds up. I don't think it holds up today. I think we've come a long way since then. And
I didn't think it held up then. But then Marcus on episode 101 of Pactor Factor said his underappreciated gem was the first Crackdown.
Takes all kinds.
It does, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the last topic of this week's show. The only release of any relevance from this week, and thank God you played it because
and that might be overstating it a little bit.
Yeah. Extinction is kind of a... Here's what I'll say about Extinction. I saw the debut trailer. I was all over it. I was like, where'd this game come from? Who's developing this? This looks awesome. Watching gameplay of it, I'm like, this game looks kind of hot. I don't know. And then the reviews came in this week.
Oof.
Brutal. Some of the lowest reviews I have seen for a video game, at least a video game that wasn't like an indie or something like that, in a long time.
I played this...
Troll and I is the last game that came out that had reviews as low as this one.
Wow. I played this before I looked at the reviews, and it became kind of a thing where I played it and I was like, what are other people thinking about this? And first off, I don't hate this game as much as everyone else on the planet, it feels like. I am most of the way through it. I am at the beginning of the last chapter of the campaign. So I played it. I played like 6-something hours of this. The biggest problem with this game is it should have been $20.
How much is it?
60.
Oh, it's a full price game.
It's a full price game. In fact, there's a digital deluxe version that's like $80.
Dude, isn't Focus Home Interactive the publisher?
I don't remember. I know it's Iron Galaxy made it. I don't remember who the publisher is.
I'm gonna look real quick.
Here's the setup for this. So basically, like you're seeing here, it kind of looks like a combination of like Attack on Titan and Shadow of the Colossus and
publisher is Maximum Games.
Okay, sure.
I don't think Maximum Games has ever had a full price release.
Really?
They're like an indie publisher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they should have stuck with that. So you're this guy. He's Avil is his name. He's a sentinel who's basically like a Jedi who can leap a lot, and he has this fancy sword that can cut through these monsters, which are called the Reveni. Here's the thing. You've already seen the whole thing. Like, what it is you get dropped down in, it looks like procedurally generated. I think they're procedurally generated, at least randomly generated, like towns and cities or whatever. You drop you down, and you have little crystals. There's crystals, and like civilians gather around them. And you have to go to the crystals and hold Y, and you teleport them to safety by doing that. And meanwhile, these little creatures enemies called jackals, there's 4 different types of jackals. They'll run up and try to kill the survivors, and you have to kill them before they. Yeah,
we're seeing it right
there you
here.
go. That's exactly it. So you have to do that, and as you kill jackals and as you rescue people, you can't see
the combat looks fluid. We talk sometimes about how you can watch a trailer and you can tell the combat's janky.
The combat's fairly fluid, but there's not a lot to it. and I'll get to that because like basically, I mean, it's one button.
Oh, geez.
All the attacks are one button. It is essentially like it's all hammering X, except you can like pause, and like if you like pause and then keep it, you'll get a different combo after the pause. And if you hold X, you'll do like a launch.
Okay.
And you can jump up in air combo, and then like hold that again, and then slam them down. So there's a little bit of variety, but it's not like you're not talking about a Ninja Gaiden kind of situation.
They make the most out of one button. Why do you think they have a combat system that's only one button?
Because it's not important.
Oh.
Because I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So you're doing this, and every time you kill one of these creatures or rescue a person, you can't see it because it's under the Sifted logo. But your rune meter fills up. So you have your life meter and the orange meter there, and you'll see when this guy disappears, the rune, or they'll talk to you. So they talk to you a lot in this game. So that orange meter there is your rune meter. So eventually, as this goes on, a Reveni will show up, which is one of the giant ogre guys.
Okay.
And they're the most dangerous things because basically there's no lives in this game really. You can die as much as you want. In fact, one-hit kills are pretty common if you're fighting the big guys. And you're basically against the clock in various ways. And mostly that is the city percentage up there. If that city percentage drops to 0, you lose.
Okay. So the giants are destroying the city.
The giants are smashing the city.
Okay.
Yeah, and killing people. So so basically it's like if your city drops to nothing, you lose. Sometimes you're protecting watchtowers. If they destroy all the watchtowers, you lose.
Okay.
Sometimes your main objective is to rescue a certain number of civilians. If they kill too many civilians, you lose because you can't rescue anymore. So when the Reveni shows up, you have to go to the Reveni. You have to go to the monster, and the idea is you hold L trigger, and that gives you a rune strike. And when you go to the rune strike, that's a rune strike right there. So the kind of time slows down. You sort of float a little bit, and you can aim your thing. And the idea is you want to aim at the Reveni's armor, and you break the armor off, and that lets you then cut that limb off.
Okay.
And so the idea is you cut the limb off, and cut the foot off, and it immobilizes them. Cut the arms off, and they can't smash you or hit buildings. And then you want to crawl. You have to crawl up their back, climb up their back, run up it. Really, it's not like Shadow of the Colossus where you're slowly crawling up. You have to run up the back and take out any head armor they might have. And then when you fill your rune meter, when the rune meter gets full up, then you can slice them in the back of the neck with a rune strike and cut their head off, and they die.
Is it really gory?
Not really.
No?
There's a splash of blood, but then they kind of disappear.
Okay.
So there's a little flash of blood. It probably would get, probably get an M rating maybe. I don't remember what's rated. I didn't look that. I have it on Steam, so I don't really
We don't
pay
have the
attention.
rating on Sifted yet.
And then there's different types of the ogre guys. So there's different colors. They behave slightly differently. The main difference is they have different armor types. So you have the wooden armor, which is you just slash it. And then there's a bunch of other better armors where they're held on by padlocks for some reason. And you have to slice the padlocks off before it comes, and then you can hit the limb. And then later on, you get things where there's thorn armor and spike armor. So thorn armor will hurt you if you touch it, except there's always a place that's unthorned, and you hit that part with the rune strike, and you knock the armor off. And then spike armor, you can't actually damage at all. You have to wait until you have to goad them into attacking you. Every time they attack you with a body part with the armor on it, it damages the armor, and if you damage it 3 times, usually you can then hit the now damaged part and break it off. That is where part of the place the game falls down is they put you later in the game in these scenarios where it's like you are timed, or you have to protect a certain number of structures like watchtowers, and there's a magic armor where there's a flaming skull that holds the armor on, and you can't damage the skull unless the flame is out, and the only way to get the flame to go out is to have them attack with that limb, and then that gives you the opportunity. So the trick there is usually they have a helmet or something on, and you have to trick them into kind of trying to smack you on their back. They try to swat you off their back, and they accidentally damage the armor.
Oh.
So there's a point at which you're trying to save all these things, these towers or whatever, or buildings or whatever, and you're on a time limit sometimes, and you're at the mercy of whether the game decides to let the monsters swat at you. Because you can't hurt them. You can't do anything unless the game agrees to accidentally hurt itself. And that stuff is really annoying. And you've got things where like the game doesn't explain. At first, it explains like, oh, you have to rescue people and kill the little monsters to have enough rune energy to kill the big monsters. But they don't tell you that you get rune energy from cutting the armor off the big guys and cutting their limbs off. So you actually don't need to rescue anyone or do the other stuff, because usually if you cut enough limbs off on the way up to the head, you've earned enough rune energy to be able to kill them.
Right.
But then you run into stuff like they've got bright steel armor, I think it is. That can't be damaged at all, period. Like there's no way to hurt it. You have to just get around it. For some reason, they never make helmets out of it, because if they did that, you couldn't kill them.
Right.
It's like if you have an impenetrable substance, maybe you should cover the part that I can kill you with that. Anyway,
this game is nothing like what I thought it was. By the way,
so this is
nothing.
And so what I've just described there, that's the whole game.
Right.
That's every
it's
level
just
is
a process
that.
you repeat over and over again.
It's
I can already see it in the footage. It's the same thing.
It's almost a tower defense where you're running around with a little guy.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And you can tell they know that because the campaign's probably 7-8 hours, and I'm just about at 7 hours. I'm about to start the last chapter. I've finished all the other missions, all the bonus objectives, everything, and that's how much time that took.
Jeez.
There are no difficulty levels that I can find. So the main and then you earn money like the SP there, and then you spend it on character upgrades, which make things much easier. And then they have a second section in the menu where like you go in and you can play trials, and you can play daily challenges, and Extinction mode, which is survival mode, and skirmishes, which are like randomly generated things, and you can get the seed for your randomly generated challenge and send it to your friends so they can put the seed in and they can play the same level. And blah, blah, blah. No one is ever going to do that because it's stupid. And to give you an example of how this is going, by the way, if Steam Spy may be gone, but here's my anecdotal data for you. I played the Extinction, the survival mode thing. And what I did.
What version are you playing?
PC.
Okay, because it's PC, PS4, and Xbox
So
One.
I'm playing it on Steam, and I played the Extinction mode. And what I didn't know is most of those other modes are designed to be played after you finish the campaign and you've upgraded the character very heavily, and you also know how to deal with all the different armor types. And I didn't know what the hell. I was very underpowered. So I go right at the big guy. And unlike the few monsters I'd fought in the early campaign, this one just swats me right away, one-shots me, and you only get one life because it's survival mode.
Oh, right.
So I scored 1 point. I got 1 point for something in that match. And it cuts back and it shows me on the global leaderboard I have 1 point, and I'm ranked 159th. So I don't think it's selling that well.
Certainly not the PC version.
But it's very telling to me that
wow.
They really think you're going to play like this randomly generated version of these levels over and over and over and over, like for leaderboard stuff. And meanwhile, the story is meh. The story is kind of like the backstory is pretty interesting, but you're only getting that at the end of every chapter through an animated sequence. I do like the art style. It reminds me of Orcs Must Die. But the whole game reminds me of Orcs Must Die also in the sense that I thought that was
tower defense game.
Super simplistic, kind of weird tower defense take. And like once you play like 3 levels, you've seen everything the game has to throw at you. Jim Sterling had a very angry video about it today. He's not wrong of most of his complaints. I'm not as angry at it in the sense that like, he's like, this is never seen. No one ever QA tested. Like, of course they did. Of course, it wouldn't start if no one QA tested. Yeah. But and I haven't gotten stuck in walls and monsters as much. But I will say the physics are just crazy broken in most places. Like, there's a bunch of where you're trying to run up the monsters. Like, if the monster moves the wrong way, suddenly the game doesn't agree that you're still running on him, and you'll just fall.
Oh, jeez.
Sometimes you'll change. The animation of the monster doesn't like gel with how the character moves a lot. So you're running up him, and he'll move, and like you'll suddenly be off him, and then you'll go to like air dash to get back to him, but then it won't agree. Like you'll hit him, so his like muscle tone is like bent down, so it doesn't think of it as a wall. It thinks it's like pointing down, so you can't stick to it. So you just sort of hit it and fall, and you've already used your air dash up, so there's no way to get back on him. Like you just fall to the ground, you have to start over, and that happens constantly.
Oh, jeez.
And like,
it still only took you 7 hours to finish it.
But by the time, and that's like with several retries of a few of the later missions with a lot of yelling. One of them, the last one in chapter 6, like I was making up new expletives.
Hey, when a game makes you angry and it's only 7 hours long, that's when you know it's a bad game. That's one of the telltale signs.
But it's just like constant, so like, especially with like the new armor types in the game where like you basically, and you're also running out of time.
LOD right there.
Yeah, the LOD is not great, especially considering like this is a game where you need to be up high and see everything a lot. So it's like,
and also the environments look really small.
They're pretty big in some, because like you can't really see but it's like it's around corners a lot. But all this is like, so once you've upgraded, so you see how fast that takes once you've upgraded him completely, you can do that 50% faster. So by the time you're upgraded even slightly, relevantly or slightly powerful, or I don't know what word I'm looking for there. Once you're even slightly upgraded in terms of like the teleport gem thing, it's much faster and more effective to just run up to every teleporter gem and just teleport them out, because by the time you're done teleporting, the enemies will not even have made it in to kill the civilian. Like you can teleport them out faster than the game can try to kill them. And so it's just boom, 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 boom. So you're just running straight to these guys and doing this over and over again. And then like you've got these like weird little armor things you have to get around, and like as it kind of makes you get more creative with how you get up there and hit these guys. So there you can see another one shot. And so there's no unlimited lives. It's just all timer. Like you can keep running back and doing it over and over again. And then also the people you're on your little radio thing mock you. They're like, "Oh, what were you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. What were you doing, game?" Like there was the physics. You're trying to get up them, and like you're accidentally, they're moving, so you're actually
pretty bloody.
You're accidentally running up into their elbow or their armpit and shit. Yeah. Like it's like, you can't get around them. There's no real control for how you can run around them or anything. Like maybe there's still a locked skill in my skill tree called wall run, which maybe helps with that. But like right now, I can't do anything about it.
So let me guess, you're not recommending that anyone buy this at full price?
No way. Like this might be like if you are really, really into kind of the concept here, like so you can see right there, like. There's no way he had that kind of range on his swipe, but he got one-shotted anyway. Yeah. And by the way, I'm maxed out in my health meter now, and I still get one-shotted by him, so it doesn't matter how much health you have. And all it does is just, there it goes again. And like all it does is like you got to run back to him, just wasting time. And this is
I don't know. It sounds to me like the reviews were pretty accurate.
Yeah, look, I'm just saying, like I like the concept of fighting giant monsters enough that I don't like fucking hate it.
Right.
Because like, I mean, Jim Sterling, it sounds like it did something to his dog.
Right.
But the idea that they are charging $60 for this is insane. Like,
well, here's the thing.
No way. Like,
if I blush, it's like I said when we first started discussing it. At first blush, it looks like it could be a really good game.
Yeah.
Like the first trailer for it, I was like, oh my gosh, this could be like the next God of War or whatever.
Nope.
It looks the part. It doesn't play the part.
No, not at all. And like the thing is, like, there's something there. Like there's the germ of something great in here if you took it and really did something with it. Because like,
it sounds like Attack on Titan 2 is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean this doesn't play as well as, I haven't played Attack on Titan 2. I played the first one though, and this does not play like that. And it's trying to. I mean, you have a whip that is only used to as a grappling hook, basically, right. And you can whip your way through the city, and for some reason you can also float, like you can kind of like glide. This is apparently a thing that Sentinels can do, and like the lore is halfway interesting, where like kind of where they reveal what these things are and why they're doing this and stuff, and like, but that's
it doesn't
not
look like there's cinemas. It looks like there's just stills, right?
No, there are fully animated cutscenes.
Oh, okay.
Like between chapters.
Oh, okay.
And which don't look bad. Like they actually remind me of the cutscenes.
Well, Iron Galaxy is not typically a terrible developer.
No, and the cutscenes actually remind me of the animation in the old Myth games.
Oh, okay.
Myth: The Fallen Lords.
Yeah.
And they're kind of going for that in the sense that like the story is basically like humanity is dead, and these are the last cities in the world. And you're basically just trying to delay the extinction of humanity long enough for your buddy to figure out how to portalize everybody to another world. And the complications that come with that, because you're the last Sentinel, and everyone else died. But like if you just put this in front of me and I played it for like 20 minutes, I'd be like, okay, so this is like $20-$30. And the fact that they want $60 and then they'd have the balls to say, hey, you can also get a digital deluxe edition with a season pass for like $80, that's nuts.
Whoever created that trailer is really good.
Oh, the trailer's great. And like
whatever studio did that, if I owned my own studio, I would be figuring out who did that trailer, and I would have them make my freaking trailer.
Well, also like it took me a while to figure out that the game was bad.
Yeah.
Like it early on, you're like, okay, cool, okay,
kind
cool,
of
fun. Okay, I get it. Okay, knock the armor off, cut the limb off, climb the thing. It's okay, like the attack on Titan, hit the back of the neck. I get it. You know, cool. It's like, and everything's like random, kind of procedurally generated, so everything's different. Like, okay, I got to defend the thing, but like maybe 3 or 4 like mission. Once they kind of teach you the basics and you've done this a few times, you're like, oh, this is it.
This is it. That's all there is.
This doesn't get any more interesting or any different or anything. And it's mostly just annoying after like the other thing you don't really see in that footage is like, so you say you're defending watchtowers, right? And like when the Reveni comes up to one of the watchtowers, like you'd think you'd be a situation where they're attacking the watchtower and like, you know, punching the watch and you got to get up there and stuff. No, one shot. Like they just take a swing and all the buildings in front of them just kind of like disintegrate. Like if you are not on them, like they're gone. Like that watchtower is history. There's no second chance. And sometimes you hit these things like, so I was trying to do, this is an example of how irritating this game gets. And you also have to keep in mind that it's in conjunction with the terrible physics and kind
everything
of
else
and all
you
that
talked
other
about.
stuff. So the mission was to defend the watchtowers. And for a certain amount of time, it was like 8 minutes or something, and you had to pick up all the civilians. It's like one of the bonus objectives was like rescue 30 civilians or something. So I'm running around and kill 4 of the Reveni. So as near as I can tell, the first 4 Reveni that spawn in that mission are more or less planned. Like their armor setup varies, but it's like the first one has spiked armor, the second one has the padlocked armor. Third one has more spiked armor. The fourth one has more padlocks. And then, so you got the 4. But then after that, they seem to be a little more random. And the last one that spawned, before, as we were winding down to the end of the 8 minutes, was covered completely in the bright steel armor, which you can't damage. Which means I can't build my rune bar to kill him.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have a helmet on. I mean, he was right there. It's like, climb him, kill him. But I had no humans left because I'd rescued them all to get the bonus objective, and also you got to do that earlier, or else the monsters just kill them all.
Right.
So the only way I could possibly kill this guy was to kill enough of the little dudes to build my bar up to maximum.
Geez.
And by the time I was even close to doing that, he'd already just walked right up to the last watchtower and smashed it. And like there was nothing I could do. And the same thing happens with like, you know, you got to, you got to kill a certain number of them in a certain amount of time, or you got to like prevent another watchtower from being destroyed. And you get one of the guys with the flaming skull armor, and you got to climb up, and you have to wait for him to agree to try to swat you and hit the skull armor thing, so the flame goes out, so you can destroy it. And a couple times I've done that, and he never did it. I'm just standing on his head and his neck, and he's not moving. He's just like, I'm just gonna go kill the thing, because he's like he knew. It's like he knew if he destroys the tower instead of trying to swat me, he wins by default.
So maybe the AI is just brilliant, Matt.
Or maybe they're not procedurally generating things with the mission like requirements in mind.
I was joking,
obviously. It's and this is that kind of thing where you're sitting there like watching the game screw you.
Yeah.
Where you're like, who likes this?
Nobody.
Who enjoys
That's why
this?
no one should buy it.
And you're sitting there being like, this was $60.
How much would you say people should pay for this?
20 to 30.
20.
Depending, like 30 if you really love this idea.
Yeah.
Probably more like 20. And honestly, I know we say it all the time. This sucker's going to be in a humble bundle in a year.
Yeah.
Like,
it's got a PC version.
Yeah. But especially on, this seems to, it runs at least pretty well on my machine in general. I definitely do not have nearly as much getting stuck in walls and monsters and geometry as Jim Sterling seems to be having on I think he's playing the PS4 version. So maybe the console versions are even worse. Like I don't know. I haven't played the console versions. I can't. And I mean, it's just like it is.
This is where we're at.
It is
in
physically
April of
problem.
2018.
Yeah. Like I mean, I'm talking. I've gotten stuck on trees. I mean, I haven't gotten stuck in them and not been able to get out. But I've been stuck on trees. I've been, a lot of like, what the fuck was that? It's like. Like, that's my basic... The phrase I've said the most playing this was, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And it got to the point where I was yelling back at the characters in the game.
I think you talked yourself into agreeing with all the other critics.
Well, I agree with them. I just don't have the anger. I mean, I did last night, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's like when I see like Jim Sterling saying like it's like the most insidious.
Well, considering he plays literally the worst games ever created, you would think he would have some frame of reference.
Yeah, like there's nothing in terms of what the terrible idea, like there's nothing in terms of the shallowness or the technical problems in this game that someone that got to the PlayStation 1 era shouldn't be able to handle, but you shouldn't pay $60 to do it.
Yep. There you go. That caps it off. Do not buy Extinction.
Yeah, don't touch. I mean, I don't feel super
finances
terrible.
Are going to go extinct.
Yeah. I don't feel super terrible because I got it, like, it was on sale on Green Man Gaming, and then I used, like, a coupon on it, so I basically paid what I think you should pay.
Well, I'm glad that you did, because we had a game to talk about.
You can't keep me...
Things are so dry right now.
You can't keep me away from a giant monster game.
Yeah.
Really.
It's like I said, the game looks really inviting.
Looks good.
That's why I'm glad that we got to talk about it, because I think a lot of people might have been tempted into...
Well, I feel like that might be one reason Jim was so, like, virulently angry about it in that video, is like, it's real easy to watch the trailer and stuff for this game and be like, oh, it can't be that bad. It looks really cool. Yeah. Like, and he's just
it is.
He's just trying to impress upon you. Do not spend $60 on this game, because it is not a $60 game. Like it shouldn't be. Like, I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, probably because that's what it costs to make it, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, this should not cost $60. There's no way. It's a toy to some degree.
Vote with your money, and the next time a game like this comes around, it won't cost $60. At least we can hope.
Or they just won't make one.
Or they just won't make it.
I am shocked that this is what came out of... I mean, Iron Galaxy made Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
And Dive Kick, which you can see a little bit in the animation.
Yeah.
Like there's a little still animation there.
Dive Kick was good.
Dive Kick was good.
Very simple, but deceptively clever.
that is not the case here.
Right.
I feel like it could have been. I feel like it's there, but they just didn't get there. Like, it could have been that.
Maybe a sequel will... It's going to tank.
Yeah, I don't...
There will be no sequel.
If they put a sequel out, they should make sure it's $30.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe they will.
Budget properly this time. The thing that gets me is this game that no one had really heard of, that barely moved any kind of needle, that you couldn't even find on Steam. Like, until recent, like, because I went to go, like, oh, I think that's about out. I should go look and see, when it's coming out. I should pre-order it or something to see.
It was our trailer of the week one week.
Yeah, but I looked it up, and like, I put Extinction into Steam, and it didn't come up. I had to Google it and look at it through the website and add it to my wish list to even be able to look at it in the Steam app. And then
maybe Steam was trying to help a brother out.
Yeah, Steam knew the score.
All right. It's time for our trailer of the week.
We've hit everybody's Steam spy information and Extinction.
That's right. All right. It's time for our trailer of the week. As always, while you're watching the trailer, get your questions in the chat, and Matt and I will answer some of them. Make sure you go at Sifted Games so we can pluck out the questions from the regular conversation. Our trailer of the week this week is for Vampire, the action RPG coming from Don't Nod.
Vampire.
Yep, Vampire.
Three people in the audience.
Exactly. The studio behind Life is Strange, the original, although it sounds like they're going to make the next Life is Strange after another studio picked it up for Beyond the Storm, which technically wasn't a sequel. It was a spin-off.
Yeah, it was a prequel. It was
prequel, right.
I mean, it always felt like, I think they always seem to imply that, like, we'll come back to Life is Strange, but right now we got to make this vampire game.
And they went and done this crazy action RPG, completely out of sorts for Don't Nod, but I'm really excited for it. They have in the past, yeah.
It's not what they're known for, because Life is Strange was sort of what blew them up.
First hit, yeah. So anyway, this is a story trailer. It is a couple minutes long, so kick up the feet and give it a watch.
This age is sickly. An ancient poison, an older rage, brewed in a cauldron newly forged. You made me this creature. What are you? I am the land. You are our champion.
Seasons don't fear the reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain. Can be like they are. Come on, baby, hear the reaper. Baby, take
I mean you no harm. I need help. Die, you fucking leech! A vampire?
Such a crude word. No. You are now an Ekon, and that you shall remain.
Have the very streets of London become a mausoleum?
The previous symptoms leading up to this attack were the same, indistinguishable from the epidemic.
No. There was something more vile in these reactions. Something primitive.
Are you alright, Doctor?
I can't see. Over there! It ain't human! Kill it! Where is the monster hiding? It's still in England, isn't it?
Take your place among the bearers of the lamps.
One of us! One of us! I shall return as your judge and jury.
The God of Priwen has called for a second great hunt of our kind, and they will stop at nothing to eliminate us. You believe you're just fighting a disease, but it's you, the disease, Jonathan, you!
We stand upon the precipice. What prevails in the end, I wonder? The desire for blood, or to be of service to man?
So, Matt, there's the classic example of the video game trailer that takes the old song, slows it down to half speed,
slow, creepy
and then
version
has a
of it.
girl sing the lyrics. Definitely a video game trailer trope.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in movies, too.
Oh, really?
The kind of the slow,
Oh, yeah,
creepy,
you're right. I've seen it before.
creepy cover of something.
Gears of War started it, though, I think.
Yeah, Gears is probably where that first started. And from there, everybody. I mean, what was it? It's not necessarily a girl singing it, but you definitely have the slower, sadder version of a song.
Right.
Even Transformers: Fall of Cybertron. Fall of Cybertron did that.
That's funny.
It was like, okay. I also agree with whoever wrote the blurb on the Sifted item earlier this week. I don't understand why the system requirements are so high for that.
I wrote that blurb.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Like,
Are you kidding me?
That doesn't look much more.
Dude, it's like i7. Like, are you kidding me?
It doesn't look like much beyond like Life is Strange to me.
I know. Mind-boggling. I really don't get it. Let's see. Nestron. Thank you, brother. So he just subscribed on our Patreon and subscribed through Twitch Prime. You the man. Maybe you just discovered us. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I'm glad you did. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All of you guys who have been subscribing to Twitch Prime throughout the show, thank you guys very, very much. It makes a big difference for us. Let's get to some questions, as Pac would say. We always have to answer a question from W. Matthew every episode. It's just the way it is. Did you guys see the article the Steam Spy guy wrote about Steam in 2017? A short version, not so good for non-games as service games. Did you see that article, Matt?
No.
I didn't either. Unfortunately, your synopsis, I don't think, gives us enough.
Well, I mean, it doesn't super surprise me that games not as a service is not doing as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the publishers wouldn't be chasing the games as a service idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that those are the games that not only sell well right out of the gate, but continue to generate revenue. I'm really impressed with what Ubisoft has done with Rainbow Six Siege, to be honest with you. When that game came out, I wrote a game eval for it on Sifted, and I did not give it a great score, because at launch it was kind of a mess and very low on content, and look at what the publisher has done with that. I mean...
Yeah, Ubi sticks with their stuff.
Yeah, it did not give up on that game, and I haven't gone back and played it for a while.
Any other major publisher would have given up on The Crew by now as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They not only kept
there would not be a
support-
sequel coming.
No.
Yeah. All right, let's try to find another one.
And Steep. Look at it. Steep is still going.
Yeah, that might be a lost cause. J. Reed Vic 7. What backwards compatible upcoming original Xbox game are you most excited about? Which Star Wars game from that collection will make you most sad about the state of Star Wars games in the 2 generations since? Jedi Academy for me. Okay, so the second wave is pretty much all Star Wars.
A lot of Star Wars. Mercenaries is the one I'm most looking for because I like that game a lot. Which is
Yeah, we
also,
talked about
it's
that.
also LucasArts, I think.
Yeah.
Of the Star Wars games, probably KOTOR 2. I mean, the KOTORs were the Xbox stars. Although I would never play KOTOR 2 on the Xbox backwards compatibility because I would only play it on PC where you can put in the mod that restores the ending content.
Right.
That game's a whole other story. Yeah, there's not a lot of other Star Wars games on that list that I really like very much. The Battlefront games are fine. I do not like the Jedi games at all. Jedi Academy is probably the best of Ravens. I didn't like Jedi Outcast at all. I hate that game, actually. Jedi Starfighter I like. Like, I miss the Starfighter style games from Star Wars. Like, you know, it's like playing, you know, I love those old Starfighter games and kind of space sim games, Wing Commander, all that stuff. So, and like basically the only thing you get like that now is like the Starfighter sections in, you know, the DICE Battlefront game, which is like methadone for a heroin addict, basically. And so I'll probably try the Jedi Starfighter one. I have that, I think, for Xbox, if I recall correctly.
Conquer for me. I agree with Matt on all the Star Wars stuff.
I'm curious to put Conquer in again. I haven't touched Conquer Live and Reloaded for years and years and years.
Here is, and I want to make sure I answer his question. This is Justin Horman, and Justin Horman had the guts to come on Beat Shane. It's been very difficult to get people to come on Beat Shane. These people are giving us like $50 a month or more, but they don't want to play me in video games. I don't know what it is.
It's not that good.
Yeah, like I really suck. Obviously, if you've watched that Beat Shane, Justin stomps me to dirt at Duck Game. Come on, people. But anyway, he had the guts to come on and do the show. So when I reach out to some of you guys who are contributing $50 or more a month, let's do it. Beat my ass. Beat me down. It's not about like how good you look or how good you are or how good I am. It's about us hanging out one-on-one playing games together. I don't really even produce the show with the idea that a lot of people are going to want to watch it or it's going to do a ton of views. It's really as a thank you to the people who are donating a ton of money. It's me taking the time out of my day to give time to people who are giving to us.
Worry about how good you look. Look who you're talking to.
Yeah, obviously. I don't care.
We are not here to be the supermodels of the game journalism world.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, Justin, thank you very much for playing with me. And here is Justin's question. With Red Dead Redemption getting its Xbox One Enhanced patch this week, what other 360 game that is not released on PC do you think deserves to get patched?
I would love to see those enhancements applied to all 3 Fable games.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would do Fable 2 any favors, because that has kind of a gross art style in places. But I would like to see the Fable games get some love in that arena.
Oh, wait, the first Fable was for the original Xbox, right?
Yeah, I guess I think Lost Chapters is already backwards compatible.
Wasn't Fable 3 the only one that was for 360?
No, 2
Fable
and 3,
2.
2 and 3
okay,
were
that's
360. Right. But I believe Lost Chapters is already backwards compatible, and 2 and 3 are as well, but they don't have any enhancements right now.
I honestly cannot, with my own brain, parse what games that came out for Xbox 360 that never got a PC version. I could not supply that information to you.
I don't think there are PC versions of 2 and 3, Fable 2 and 3.
I'm saying you're right, but I can't pluck out a game that I can definitively know whether or not it ever had a PC version. Because a lot of times the PC version came much later.
This is not 360, but you know what I'd love to see them do this for, just to acknowledge that it existed? Brute Force.
Oh, gosh.
Remember that? You remember the Halo killer?
You have an uncanny ability to pluck terrible games out of the past.
You remember how hype that was, though?
I remember it. That I had just completely forgotten about.
That fucker was on the cover of magazines.
I know it was. Dude, the Xbox got a lot of... The first Xbox, and in some cases the X360 exclusives, got way more hype than they ever deserved.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, you brought up a couple original Xbox games today I had completely forgotten about.
Because we were talking about, like, before the show, we were talking about, like, what's left to...
Right.
I'm like, I don't know if somebody really has a Jones to play Azuric or Nightcaster
again. Yeah,
there was a Nightcaster too. You remember that?
I know.
Fusion Frenzy's already on there, I think. Fusion Frenzy was one of the hidden gems for a lot of people because it was a good couch.
Yeah, it was actually fun.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here.
There were a lot of weird Xbox only like games where they were just throwing stuff at the wall to see what's stuck.
Here's a great question from Scorpier. What game mechanic do you miss? I like the rewind mechanic of Prince of Persia or Braid.
I really like, and I guess it's still around because the series isn't dead or anything, but I really like Gears of War's active reload gimmick.
It's hardly ever done.
And no one, I actually asked Cliff Bleszinski that once, like, how come no one steals that? How come no one
There have been
really,
a couple games.
but like it's I when I first played Gears of War, I was like, oh, this is how you're going to reload from now on. Like this isn't just how games are going to do this because this is such a good idea, and like. So, I mean, like Battlefront 2 does it, and that's the only other game like that I can think of recently. And I asked him once, and he's just like, I have no idea. I think it's great. And I'm like, I agree. It's like, so yeah, I think that would be something I would think of is like, it's not just that like I miss it because I can always just play Gears of War, but like, it's weird that more people don't steal that.
Yeah. I would say, and I talk about this game all the time, flying in Star Siege Tribes. Shooters just do not let you fly. That's probably a big reason why I liked Lawbreakers, because it had those sections of each map where there's 0G, and you could actually get that Z-axis in on the combat.
Yeah, it's like that and like Titanfall are the only two that really use that to any real degree.
Yep, a lot of times you'll get them in a shooter, but it's like you get one burst, and then you fly and you land down. But like the flying in Tribes, like you could actually manage your pack, so you could jet up, and then you could just like burst it and actually get like crazy long distances out of it. So that for me is like a mechanic that I would love to see come back, but I doubt it ever will. Let's see if we can get a couple more here. Kadaz1, are loot boxes done, or do you agree with Jim Sterling that the industry doesn't have that kind of class? Do you think the ESA will go after mobile games in the same way, or is that someone else's wheelhouse?
I'm going to need to read that again.
Are loot boxes done, or do you agree with Jim Sterling that the industry doesn't have that kind of class? Do you think that the ESA will go after mobile games in the same way, or is that someone else's problem, really, is what he's
I
saying.
think the mobile games are someone else's problem. The ESA doesn't care.
I think it should care.
It should, but it doesn't.
Because to us, we consider mobile games like this other class of games, but to the people who actually can make changes to this kind of stuff, they're just all video games. And so I don't think we should allow the ESA to compartmentalize and say, oh, we're only going to work on core games or games that like hardcore gamers care about.
Well, you're right, but it's not about allowing. Like, we don't get to call the shots the ESA does. And let's not forget, that's been in mobile games for a decade now, and we didn't, nobody gave a shit until it showed up in a Star Wars game.
If they took out stuff like that out of mobile games, the whole industry would
mobile
collapse.
industry would collapse in on itself. That's the whole point.
It really would.
I mean, the mobile industry is about exploiting psychological defects in people. It's not about making good games.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously,
you've actually learned that firsthand over the last 6 months.
Well, I think if you've sat in on anything where where you see kind of, we don't have E3s for mobile games because that's not what they're about.
Right.
They're about manipulating people from a marketing standpoint.
Let's hit the other part. Are loot boxes done? No.
No, not until people stop buying them.
Yeah.
I mean, look. Overwatch is going to keep loot boxes. Even if everyone else got rid of their loot boxes, Overwatch can have loot boxes.
Because people don't complain about them with Overwatch.
Right. Well, also, people don't complain about them unless they're in a game they care about.
Right.
Like everybody freaked out about. I've said this before, but everybody freaked out about Battlefront 2 because they want to play the Star Wars game. No one gave a shit about. All the loot boxes are still in Need for Speed Payback because no one cares.
No one plays it.
But the integration in Need for Speed Payback is actually worse.
Way worse. Yeah.
But no one threw a fit about it because.
Well, there was a mild rumble.
Yeah, but no one...
And then EA put out a statement about it, and then no one cared. So no one ever bothered to follow up to see what actually happened.
The furor over loot boxes will stop after they stop putting loot boxes in games the core demographic wants to play and doesn't want to ignore. Yeah. That also happened with Shadow of War.
Yeah.
So as soon as that stops, people stop screaming about it, and the ESA can quietly go back to not caring anymore.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Is they're going to take loot boxes out of Luke boxes? That's what they should have called the Battlefront boxes, Luke boxes. How do you miss that one? So they're not going to go away. They're just going to go away in the games that we get angry about and then don't care about how they're exploiting people that play mobile games.
All right, let's answer Nesteron's question. He is a brand new Twitch Prime subscriber and a brand new patron on Patreon. So let's answer his question. What do you make of Lawbreakers' failure?
Well, in part, we talked about that with in the Radical Heights.
Notice you had to check the
I had
name.
to look at the paper. That's right. Yep.
It is not a memorable name. I personally was really disappointed that it failed miserably because I really liked it. You can go read my game eval for it on Sifted. I was a fan of it. I really liked it. I liked the 0G stuff. I liked that it did have some unique mechanics, like the ability to kind of shoot behind you when people are running after you. That's something that like all shooters should have. Like it seems like if you get caught with your back to someone, you're just instantly dead.
It had a ton
and
of
a lot of shooters, if that happens, I just quit. I'm like, oh, they're going to kill me. But in that game, once you got good at it, you can start shooting from behind. At the very least, you could maybe survive and get away. I thought that mechanic was great. I thought the zero-G stuff was great. I thought the art was terrible. It was very indistinctive.
It had a lot of good ideas. It's just, I looked at it and it just didn't spark anything.
No marketing from Nexon. That didn't help.
And it cost a lot as a buy. It was at $40.
Yeah, saturated market. It was kind of hard, I think, was a problem too.
And it also had a definite skill ceiling or skill floor, I guess you'd say. You had to get a certain amount good at it before you could
you got
get
your ass
anything
handed
done.
to you the first few times you played it.
And it also just had the misfortune of sort of being, it was an arena character shooter that entered right as those sort of ended and the PUBG thing became the new hotness, and everyone sort of already had their arena shooter if they weren't going to move on to a PUBG thing.
It was a character shooter that had no character.
That too.
That was probably its biggest problem.
I mean, you look at
the art and the characters in that game, I can't remember a single one of them.
No. They all looked like characters that someone would have modded into Unreal Tournament 98.
You're right.
I
actually really love the game. I'm really disappointed to see it do poorly.
Yeah, it was a good game. It's just, it didn't
Market
catch.
wasn't
And
there.
every element just was either poorly thought out or poorly timed through no fault of its own. And it just didn't help that you look at it and it looked like a arena shooter that was made up of background characters from 90s Image comics. It just didn't catch. And at least Radical Heights, the characters pop a little bit.
Yeah. Popping the wrong ways in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, there's not much to it.
Though.
There's not much to it right now, but eventually I can see them having just crazy. This is not the same kind of thing where in PUBG where your people are trying to dress to not stand out. This is it's really easy to see people running around in Radical Heights. It's not a stealthy game, which
and it's not a bunch of drab grays and browns where people kind of blend into the environment.
And you can see that the clothes that are available to upgrade and buy, people are going to look crazy in this game. It's not going to be about sneaking around, not making sure nobody sees you rolling around on your belly. It's going to be it's just crazy. Everybody just I can see that guy 3 buildings away through the plate glass window because he's got fireworks in his hair. That's the kind of thing I think this game's going to be, which will be a different experience than what the competition is offering, and at least. After playing it for that amount of time, I can come back and talk about it like that. Whereas with Lawbreakers, I'd be like, yeah, that was cool. I like the swinging thing, but I suck at it. So I swing and I fall off the level. It's just, the barrier of entry was high, and there should be a market for, really highly skill-based shooters. But I guess not. Things aren't always the way they should be.
Tribes was never a big hit either.
No, Star Siege Tribes was... people like you, I've never played it because I didn't have access to a PC at the time, but there's that subset of people that's what they were playing at that time, like you, and they talk about it like this golden age of their life.
Yeah.
It's
so far ahead of its time. Because it had the whole vehicles and base stuff, way before everything.
And they all, everyone else says, there's never been anything else like it, even the other Tribes games.
No, they've tried with the new Tribes games, and they just didn't have that spirit to them. They got too complicated. And it already was complicated, and they made it even more complicated. So that's it for episode 124 here on Sit the Games. GameFace probably is going to go down next Friday. I'm thinking we'll probably get back to the Friday schedule. We're almost there anyway. And Friday worked out a lot better for us as far as people being able to watch. During the week, we just get far fewer people watching a stream. We want to make sure that you guys can watch it if you have the time. And I think in Europe, we're pretty much in the weekend already on Friday. And obviously here, we're already in the weekend on Friday night. So probably going to go back to Friday. And again, just a couple more episodes of GameFace left here in our studio. For those of you maybe tuned in late, we got booted out.
Along with everybody else in the building.
Yeah, this whole wing of the building, everyone is thrown out. Somebody came in to rent out the whole suite or the whole wing of suites. And so we have to get out by May 4th. So stay tuned. We're working on that. We'll figure out something. But yeah, we only have a couple episodes left in our studio. We're going to miss you, buddy. But
where will we freeze to death now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, before you guys go, if you can take a minute to subscribe through Twitch Prime, we'd appreciate it. You can give us a free $2.50, which adds up very quickly and makes a difference for us. And it'll help us on our search to find a new home. So thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone on the stream. Thanks for everybody who did subscribe through Twitch Prime tonight. We appreciate it. GameFace is up and out.